Peace and power, family. Welcome to the RAM, Resurgence of the African Mind Book Club, where we seek to liberate the minds of one African at a time via book series, which we are starting with, as we all know, Blueprint for Black Power by Baba Amos Wilson. We want to thank you all for joining us. This week, we will be discussing Chapter 5 and Chapter 6. We're going to combine two this week. As you all know, my name is Alima Njai, aka Lili La Poete Speaks. You can find the live links to join the panel and also to watch at the bottom in the group on my site, which is lililapoetespeaks.com. You can also find them on Deanna Bailey's page, Dr. Maat. Her other page is Deanna Bailey. And we will have those for you available within the hour before we start, which is 7 o'clock every Sunday. Once again, my name is Lili La Poete. We're going to let the panel introduce themselves before we get started.
Hotep family. Hotep family, Andre Lyons.
Sister Ma'at.
Me. I thought Brother Travis was going to go. I was so busy in Facebook just now. But peace and power.
Right.
Peace and power, family. My name is Dr. Deanna Bailey, also known as Dr. Oya. And I'm the co-founder of Ed Anime Productions. I'm also an adjunct professor at the School of Engineering at Morgan State University, and also the co-founder of Higher Minds Academy, which is an African-centered academy that will be opening in Baltimore, Maryland on October the 7th. I'm happy to be here. I'm looking forward to this discussion on Blueprint for Black Power. If you guys need to get the text, please hit me up on Facebook, Deanna Bailey on Facebook, or hit Sister Alima Njai on Facebook to get a signed copy of Blueprint for Black Power. We currently have them available for $43. If you go on Amazon, Amazon is going to charge you $55 for a copy of Blueprint for Black Power, and it's not going to be autographed. Our copies are autographed by Brother Sababu, who is the editor and publisher of the book. Because as you all know, this book was published posthumously by Sababu. So Sababu has signed and autographed these copies. So you can hit up Sister Alima or hit up myself to get a copy of Blueprint for Black Power. We currently have 7 of them left. And I mean, let's keep it real. I would rather you guys support the African, I think it's called African World Info Systems, right? Then give your money to Amazon, because I'm sure that Amazon is taking probably, what's the cut for Amazon, Sister Alima? 40%, 60%, 50%? Your mic is muted, sis.
It's almost 50%.
So, so if you purchase Blueprint for Black Power from Amazon, you're paying $55. But Brother Sababu will probably see about $27.50 of that transaction. Whereas you can get Blueprint for Black Power from us. It'll be autographed by Sababu, and he gets all of the money. Sister Alima and myself have not made a dime off of selling these books. We sell them for $43. Brother Sababu is giving it to us for $40, and we're only charging the extra $3 for shipping, so that we could package it and ship it to you. So we're not making a dime. All of this money is going to African World Info System. So please support. Once again, my name is Dr. Deanna Bailey, also known as Oya. I'm looking forward to this powerful discussion today. We're on chapter 5 and 6 of Blueprint for Black Power. And I'm going to let the rest of the panel introduce themselves, because I'm totally excited on the different concepts, because he goes into African-centered education. And as many of you already know, I'm a huge proponent of that. And so is Sister Alima Njai. In fact, she gave me some great news this week. She is homeschooling her 2 daughters. I'm so proud of her. And I'm looking forward to that day when I'll be able to say that I'm also homeschooling Jalen. So, it's going to be a powerful discussion tonight, and I'm looking forward to it.
Indeed. Is Brother Travis going to introduce himself? I don't know where Brother Travis went.
Please, I made it back. I had some interruptions there. Sorry about that. Again, my name is Brother Travis. I'm from Detroit. I'm an IT professional here, work in cybersecurity. I'm a web developer and also market on Facebook quite a bit. this Blueprint for Black Power is opening my mind to a lot of different things that I've had questions to about. So, you know, the dynamics of group and the repercussions of individualism. This is a powerful book club, and you know, in the future, I can see us researching and studying a lot more information. You know, I definitely want to tackle that Yoruga after this one. So I'm voting for that Yoruga after this one.
And you know what, Brother Travis, I was talking to brother Ben with Brother Black Panther, who was the husband of Sister Alima Njai. I spoke to him this week, and he was like, yeah, you know, he was like that. You know, the Yoruga is he said that's a heavy text. He said it would be a great, you know, follow up to Blueprint for Black Power. And also Brother Knowledge Born, he expressed that. I believe it was either last show or the show before last. He was saying that it would be a good follow up. So, you know, Sister, she's already said she's with it. So I'm totally with it.
Right. That's right.
But I would love if we could, and I've been looking for her information online. Sister, the elder, Marimba Annie.
Lives in Atlanta now.
Yeah, I know she's in Atlanta, but I would love to get in contact with her just to probably purchase, you know, maybe like 20 autographed copies from her and get it directly from the elder and have money go directly to the elder. But I can't find any of her information online.
Contact Mwalamu Baruti in Atlanta. He's a close associate with her, and they work together. You know, Dr. Amos Wilson, she worked with Dr. Amos Wilson as well. She had a study group that she taught and mentored youth at his bookstore in New York. So, you know, that's why I like to combine these two, Dr. Amos Wilson and Sister Marimba Ani. They worked together for many years and knew one another. But contact Mwalamu Baruti in Atlanta. She knows him.
Oh, well, I'll put that. I'll leave.
I can get up with Baba Baruti.
I was just about to say, I got to give that to Sister Alima. Sister Alima get it done. She'll get it done. Yeah, and see, sis, and see if we can purchase, you know, maybe 20 copies from her and 20 autographed copies from her, and you know, so we can support her directly.
Cool.
So we'll hop on that. We'll hop on that, and so we'll get these copies at least before we get out of Blueprint for Black Power. I'm looking for Sister Camille. I know, right? Yes, this will be the first discussion that she's missed, but maybe she'll log on a little later. I'm putting up links as we speak. But go ahead, sis. Let's jump right into it. Chapter 5, the self-concept, the self-concept in power.
Yes, chapter 5. As we all know, last chapter we did chapter 4, consciousness and power. We learned about functional elements of consciousness, how Africans are disempowered and empowered. We also learned values of social control and group consciousness. Now we're touching on self-concept and power. In this chapter, Baba is going to talk to us about self-identity, self-evaluation, self-ideals, ethnocentrism, self-concept, and power. So let's get into it. Okay, so the first page, it was a brief rundown pretty much of what he was saying in the last chapter. The last thing I had was towards the bottom of the page was hence a society generally includes a social order, a system of people, relationships, and customs operating smoothly to accomplish the work of society, defined by Horton and Hunt. As Horton and Hunt contend, unless people know what they may expect from one another, not much will get done. No society, even the simplest, can function successfully unless the behavior of most people can be reliably predicted most of the time. However, on a more fundamental level, networks of social roles of reciprocal rights and duties, which define the social order of a society, must consistently be held in place and reinforced if the society itself is to remain functionally stable. So that is the definition of social order given to us by Horton and Hunt. Anybody want to jump in? I see Brother Do the Knowledge just joined us. Hi, peace and love to you, brother. How are you?
Peace to the family. Peace. Forgive me for my tardiness. And you know, we was doing that tribute to our warrior ancestor, Kwame Nkrumah, on today. So we was having a good conversation. So forgive me for my tardiness.
Oh, no.
Is that going to be archived somewhere? Because I missed it. I want to listen to that show.
Yes, I seen that link.
Okay.
Cool. Where your shows normally archived, on Blog Talk Radio, Do the Knowledge Radio? Like, how do you access the archives?
Yes, you go to www.blogtalkradio.com/Do the Knowledge Radio. That's DOTHAKNOWLEDGERADIO.
Okay.
And I think,
Excellent.
Sister Lima, you was the only one out of your clan and out of this network that ain't been on the show. You know what I'm saying? So I need for you to not be antisocial, so we could get, we could get that book popping out there. Let the family know.
Definitely. I'm with it. Just just reach out to me. I'm not antisocial when it comes to coming on shows. You just gotta reach out to me. I'm with it.
Maybe that's your husband. Yeah.
With his Black Panther? No.
Maybe that's Black Panther.
Okay, well, let's move on, family. We go on to talk about social roles and how they are defined and maintained. It says that the maintenance of social roles, a social system or society, calls for an underlying system which maintains and regulates its order, a system of social control. Again, Horton and Hunt provide us with such a definition. Sociologists use the term social control to describe all the means and processes whereby a group or a society secures its members' conformity to expectations.
So, Sister Lima, let's stop right there.
Yes.
Let's stop right there. So what are the tools? I mean, if you all could think of some tools, what are some tools for social control? The first thing I want to list is religion. Media.
I would say the media, the news.
Educational institutions. What else will we say? Educational institutions, the media.
The legal system.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yes, the legal, absolutely. Police officers.
The military. So these are some of the tools that they use for social control. All right, social control. So you already read the definition, sis. I was over here highlighting. I have some things marked, but I was highlighting. You already read the definition on page 101? Okay. Now he's about to get into self-concept and what self-concept is. He says, one among a number of important means by which a society, more specifically the dominant group or class in a society, maintains the social order, which is beneficial to its interests, is through markedly influencing the ways individuals and groups who make up the social order perceive or define themselves. Such a socially conditioned perception or self-definition is generally referred to as a person's or a group's self-concept. So self-concepts are molded via social control.
Absolutely. So what we think of ourselves is actually a product of our social interactions.
Yes, exactly.
Yep, it says it's socially conditioned, a self-definition. So it's one of the means. Yes. I'm going along right with you. It says thus the self-concept of a subordinate individual or group, because that is, if you think of the relationship between European Americans and us, it is a subordinate, dominant sort of relationship. So I'm on the bottom paragraph of 101, page 101. It says the self-concept of a subordinate individual or group which has been conditioned and defined by a dominant individual or group provides the means by which the subordinate individual or group is controlled or at least noticeably influenced by the dominant other. The self-concept of the subordinate party may be said to reflect in its character and behavior the power of the dominant party, and moreover to serve in effect as an instrument of the other party's power. All right. So it says somebody.
Mute your mics, family. Please mute your mics, family, please. Mute his mic, sis.
All right. So it says in some, people are largely controlled. All right. So, you know, I want to bring to the, I want to bring this, that out, the self-concept. So how we view ourselves, our self-concepts, ideas that we have of ourselves. He's saying when it's a subordinate or dominant situation, it's the dominant group that gives you your self-concept. All right. And then he says, in some, and this is going into page 102, people are largely controlled by being socialized or socially conditioned to perceive themselves in certain ways and thereby to behave in certain ways so as to fulfill their roles in maintaining a social order. Okay, so when you think about this in terms of European Americans and African Americans, they have given us a self-concept that has suited their best interest or suited their interests. All right, they benefit from the definitions that they have given us. All right, and so it says, so it's beneficial for us to perceive ourselves, it says, in certain ways so we can maintain the social order. And right now, if you look at the social order, Black people at the bottom of the social hierarchy or the dominance hierarchy, we're at the bottom, and that's due to the definitions that have been given to us, the definitions that have been imposed upon us or induced in us by the dominant group. Okay, no wonder, Sister Alima, that I don't know if you guys remember, but back in, I think it was 2016, I believe it was 2016. Do you remember when we were like, oh my goodness, why are so many slave movies coming out? Remember, it was like Nat Turner, then it was The New Roots, and then it was 12 Years a Slave. And we were like, why is there so many, like, why do they want to keep on projecting this image? And, you know, and I took a stand, and I remember, Sister Alima, you also backed me on this when we were on social media. We were like, no, we're not going to continue to, you know, not that we're hiding slavery from our children, but we were like, we're not going to continue to expose our babies to this slave image of our people, you know. And again, when you do that, what were they doing? They were projecting a self-concept. They were maintaining that self-concept, right? That self-concept within us. That's what I believe that they were doing with the media during that time. So anyway, it says that, you know, we've been conditioned to perceive ourselves in certain ways and to behave in certain ways so as to fulfill our roles to maintain the social order. The social order is most efficient and stable when individuals and groups fill their roles in the expected way through habit and preference, as well as identify with their roles to the extent that they perceive them as defining who they naturally are. So it's like we as Black folks, we think that when we do things, Sister Alima, or we act in certain ways, it's our natural self. That's right. But we've actually been conditioned, you know, to behave and to perceive ourselves in certain ways. And these ways that we've been, you know, and the way we perceive ourselves benefits or maintains the social order. It says they and the role become one and the same. It says if a social order is to function efficiently, its members must acquire the kind of character which makes them want to act in the way they have to act as members of the society. They had to desire to do what is objectively is necessary for them to do. He says, when the dominant group conditions the self-concept of a subordinate group, it in effect shapes the character of the subordinate group, which makes them want to act in ways they have to act as members of a particular social order or system controlled by the dominant group. The subordinate group is thereby conditioned by the dominant group to desire, to feel, and act in ways which necessarily help to maintain the power of the dominant group in the social order which oppresses and exploits them. Consequently, the subordinate group's self-concept at the same time that it is the instrument of the dominant group's power and also an instrument of its own powerlessness. So he's saying here that our self-concept is our instrument of power, and our self-concept is also an instrument of the dominant group's power, right? Yes. That's deep, Sister Alima.
It really is.
You know, I was thinking about reflecting on this back in, I went to private school all the way from elementary school all the way through high school, and there was a particular young brother. He was smarter than everybody. He was the most smartest young man that I've ever seen. He was a Black guy, and we were in science class, and he would bring animals in, get in front of the class and break down reproductive systems of animals, and a few times even corrected the teacher. He was a Black guy. And they had got him out of the school, kicked him out of the school for, you know, menial things. You know, they wrote him hard for some reason. As a little kid, I didn't understand, you know what I mean? Why were they always on this kid? You know what I mean? I was the worst one, really, you know, always fighting in the office, but he was, you know, they were always constantly on this kid for some reason. I used to reflect on that, but he was breaking the social order, like you talked about here. He was not in the social order like we were at that particular time. You know, think about sports, you know what I mean? You know, kind of mischievous. He was, I used to see him at the mall sometime, and we used to have a science a room at the mall where you can buy insects and stuff like that. He would buy insects and just go on and on about, you know, dissecting animals and understanding, you know, all types of aspects of it. But they got him out of the school. You know, kicked him out of the school because he wanted to get, because he was not only smarter than us, he was smarter than the white kids. And they got him out of the school. So
he didn't behave in the way that was expected. You get what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Yeah, he didn't behave in the way that was expected.
And we were much worse than he was, but they were always on. The teachers were always on him because he was such at a high level that he was even he even surpassed the white kids.
He was challenging them intellectually. White people do not like.
No, they
he was correcting them in class. He was correcting
by children. I had the same issues growing up. I can vividly remember getting kicked out of class in the 3rd grade because my teacher was trying to teach us about Columbus, and I'm like, no, ma'am. You're not about to tell me that this white man discovered America. I'm like, well, my mom said that the Native Americans were already here. So how can you discover a land when people were already here? I was kicked out of class. And that was at 8 years old. They don't like when your self-concept per se doesn't mimic the conditioning that you're supposed to have received from them.
Yes, that's what it is. He broke the mold as, you know, they had a stereotype where we were fitting, and a lot of times I think because I was an athlete, we fit in the mold that they wanted us to be, just be athletes and not really be, you know, dealing with academics. He was strictly academic, and they would make mistakes in class, the teachers, and he would correct them. I never seen anything like that.
Wow.
He would correct them. Yeah.
Well, they teach biology, and in biology they can explain away a competitive genetic edge. You understand what I'm saying? Because they say we share ancestors with, you know, the jungle life, and they perpetuate a negative self-talk in regards to having a athletic edge, but not an intellectual edge. So when we start to look at these soft sciences versus these hard sciences, we see why they were formulated. You see, these soft sciences were formulated to show the intellectual inferiority of the African family, and in support of, you know, I call it white fragility. You see what I'm saying? So that white superiority complex was built based off of, okay, they might be able to run faster and jump higher, but we're smarter. You understand what I'm saying? So they measured us from head to toe, you know, to bring about this particular evidence. And it was like, okay, you know, because of their bone structure, because of, you know, the cranial density, because of their muscular, you know, the central nervous system, the tissues, and the environment that they grew up in. You understand? You see what I'm saying? So to perpetuate that type of thing, they could take that loss. They could take that, you know, you can be physically stronger, but no. It goes against the white psychology again when it comes in to say that, you know, you don't have superior brain power. You see what I'm saying? So the superiority goes away. You see what I'm saying?
Right. Absolutely.
You operate outside of those norms. They have to set up adjudication type of situations to address that. You see what I'm saying? So it's just like how they would bring one of our ancestors out, like the strongest one, and beat him within the inch of his life in front of everybody else. You see what I'm saying? So to show you who was in charge. You see what I'm saying? So now they created a system based off of that type of interface, because you can't beat everybody down because ain't nobody going to do no work. So you just do it one time, you make that example. They got a criminal justice system that's there as a crime deterrent, not a crime eliminator, a crime deterrent, because they're making money off of the crime and they're making the money off of, you know, on both sides of the coin. You see what I'm saying? And that money is power. You see what I'm saying? That's the real currency that they really after, you know, not dollars. You see what I'm saying? So, you know, pushing this, I know from 17 years in the military that they make you a certain kind of way. And they check on you every day, every single day. You understand what I'm saying? Every time you go to where they meet, every time you go to formation, they're checking you every day. They're inspecting you every day. They're not just physically inspecting you, they psychologically inspecting you to see that, to make sure that you in that program, and they will not move you up if you don't conform to that program or that programming. You understand what I'm saying? I call it the military mind. So this military mind, when you see something that says dominant and subordinate, that's military jargon. You see what I'm saying? Used through a psychological lens, because the psychological lens precedes the military lens. You see what I'm saying?
Sister Camille, thank you for joining us, Queen.
What's
We were
happening?
looking for you. We were looking for you, sis.
I
So
was
all these
got
things-
She got the camera on. I see you, sis.
My seat is so low, and it's like weird. So
I'm sorry, brother Knowledge Boy, and I didn't mean to cut your wisdom, King. I just
I was about to cut him anyway because Brother Knowledge will talk for 15 minutes and we got 2 chapters to get into. I'm not doing that with you African people. We're going to get through these damn chapters.
I wanted to say one last thing, that this builds that psychological self-concept. You see what I'm saying? So it's the same way that they made gangsters, and then they made them look like us. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
They use the same concept. So I'll be quiet now. I don't want to.
Hey, this brother Andre, can I interject something real quick before you read on, sis?
Yeah.
Okay, and this is I think it's complimenting what we're doing today on social control. This is an article that I found from 2012 by this brother Frederick G. Jones, or his AKA the Nubian. I'm just going to read a short sentence. I don't want you yelling at me, so I'm going to keep it quick. It says it's unrelenting daily assault upon the black psyche. Now he's referring to the media social control. We know we already identified others, but again, its unrelenting daily assault upon the black psyche is designed to adversely manipulate and shape the minds and collective consciousness of its targeted black population. This mass manipulation program is so proficient that, check this out, that it conditions its black victims to not only accept white dominance over their lives, but to also prefer it, to prefer white. That's heavy. I just wanted to add that. I think that speaks to what we're talking about.
Yeah, that's a good find right there, brother. Frederick G. Jones.
Yes, AKA the Nubian.
The Nubian. Okay, I'm writing this down.
The article is called the Social Engineering of Black People.
Can you put the link in the group chat, brother?
Yes.
Yes.
social engineering of black people.
You can put the link in the chat, sis.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that was powerful. And see, Dr. Amos is getting ready to get into that on page 102 and 103 in the subsection entitled Self-Concept, Ethnocentrism, and Social Power. So he says, we contend that the self-concept is an instrument of social control and power. And I mean, and that's true. How you perceive yourself determines how you can be controlled, or how to the degree that you can be controlled. So, for example, someone that thinks lowly of themselves is easily dominated and exploited, right? So if someone can control the idea you have of yourself, they can control your behavior, or at least control and or predict your behavior once they have developed or created your self-concept. So he says, we contend that the self-concept is an instrument of social control and power. He said, it is our contention that the self-concept, which characterizes African peoples under the various regimes of white supremacy, are the instruments of white power, and conversely of black powerlessness. All right. So now Dr. Amos Wilson is getting ready to go into the self-system. What is the self-system? The self-concept, your self-identity, your self-evaluation. So he's getting ready to describe what he calls the self-system. All right. So at the top of page 103, he provides us with a definition of self-concept. The individual self-concept is his picture or image of himself, his view of himself as distinct from other persons and things. This self-image incorporates his perception of what he is really like, self-identity, in his worth as a person, self-evaluation, as well as his aspirations for growth and accomplishments, which are his self-ideal. So here we're talking about self-concept, self-evaluation, self-ideal. Okay, so self-concept is how you view yourself, the image of yourself. And it can be easily argued that the self-concept or self-image that we have of ourselves as African people have been manufactured by the people who dominate us. I mean, look at the self-image of the thug, Sister Alima, you know, of the thug, of the single Black mother, of the promiscuous Black woman, of the Black woman who don't Black men, or Black men who don't. I mean, look at these different images that they infuse us with. You get what I'm saying? And I'm not going to say ironically, but they induce us with images that they benefit from. They benefit from the thug, right? You got people that identify with that image. They benefit from that. They benefit from the single Black mom. They benefit, you know, from the promiscuous people. They benefit from this stuff. All right. So they've given us or induced in us a self-image that for their interest. And so then he goes into the definition of self-identity.
Yes.
He says Coleman goes on to posit the body image as central to the individual's or group's self-concept. He contends that the individual's early perception of his physical self is called the body image and appears to form the primitive core of his self-concept. Since others perceive and react to the individual, at least partially in terms of his physical appearance, it is not surprising that the individual's body image may continue to be an important component of his identity and self-concept throughout his life. He said that is the primitive core of his self-concept.
Right. So in essence, our self-identity is how you see yourself. It's your body image.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And at the bottom, he says his self-identity is confirmed by recurrent and relatively consistent social interactions.
That's right. Wow. That's facts. That's facts.
So it's like it's like your self-identity, like you said, it's confirmed. So how you view yourself or this self-image that you have is confirmed by the way others interact with you.
Exactly. And that makes sense.
Totally.
And so this says to me that one's self-identity can also change based off social interactions. You could have a high self-esteem and socially people don't view you that way, and it diminishes the way you view yourself.
Thanks.
So it's subjective. It's subjective to whether you receive positive interactions or negative social interactions.
I had a question for y'all also.
Right.
Could that be the groups that we also formulate with? Meaning that who we formulate in a group as a group is also has to do with our sense of self-identity. You know, people with a low sense of identity tend to formulate with people with low self-identity, and groups just in a negative aspect. Yeah.
That's what the Bible has been teaching us, that people join groups for their own, to make themselves comfortable, to seek out commonalities within each other. So if like you ever notice how there's that one group at school and everybody wears black, you know, and that other clique, and it's like the sluts type of girls, and then there's another crew, it's like the jocks, and so we all lean towards who we have commonalities with. That's how we form groups. Very true, brother.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I always tell people that if you want to know who you are, just look around at your circle. If you want to know who you are, look at your circle. And to be honest, when I was in school pursuing my bachelor's and then pursuing my DE, everybody around me was pursuing their bachelor's and their DE. When I was out in the street and I was breaking law, everybody around me was breaking law. When I decided to come into consciousness and get into books, now my circle consists of people who are into books and into consciousness. When I decided to become a business owner, a lot of my friends own businesses. And so, you know, if you want to know who you are, just look around at your circle.
That's right. And that brings us into self-evaluation. Sister Camille or Brother Travis, y'all want to read the definition?
Oh, yes. I have some stuff highlighted. Inextricably related to self-identity is self-evaluation. Whether an individual or group behaviorally perceives his or itself as good or bad, worthy or unworthy, adequate or inadequate, superior or inferior. In a way similar to his acquisition of self-identity, individuals and group self-evaluation is heavily dependent upon the way in which others view him, on the ways he and it uses the standards of others for measuring his or its adequacy and worth.
So right there,
Another term, synonymous. Another term often synonymous with the term self-evaluation is self-esteem. To a good extent, the individual or group's self-esteem determines what he or it thinks he or it are capable of achieving. A person or group's self-esteem, therefore, sets limits on his or its levels of aspiration.
Wow.
Thus, the self-evaluation to which blacks subscribe as conditioned into them by whites is the psychological means by which whites seek to limit, fix, and shape the behavioral possibilities of blacks. Also, by shaping the self-esteem of blacks, whites seek to shape and limit the behavior of blacks, as well as make black behavioral with the empowerment of black powerlessness.
Let me pause for a sec. I'm getting ready to read this quote. I don't know if you can see it, but this is a quote by Dr. Leonard Jeffries. Dr. Leonard Jeffries says, whoever controls the images controls your self-esteem, your self-respect. Hold on, goodness, my phone will go off. Whoever controls the images control your self-esteem, self-respect, and self-development. And he goes on to say, whoever controls the history controls the vision. But that was very good. So if I can control your image, then I can control your self-esteem, your self-respect, right? Your self-respect, your self-development. So that's exactly what Baba Amos Wilson is saying in this paragraph. You guys can continue. I just wanted to add that, emphasize that.
Okay,
Isn't
we're
that-
gonna move on to. Oh, wait. I think that brother Dude Knowledge was saying something. Oh wait, Brother Andre.
Yes, I just want to say, isn't that what Malcolm was talking about, Brother Malcolm X, when he said, you know, who told you your nose was too big, or your lips and your hair was nappy? Y'all remember that?
Yeah.
I misquote my brother, but this is what he was speaking right to that. You know, you allowed them to shape how you view yourselves and how you view one another. And you know, when we talk about nappy, I remember back in the day growing up, you saw somebody with nappy hair, we would joke on them and all that, you know, but who said that nappy hair was ugly? Where did we get all that from?
Right.
You know, it was that social control that was interjected into our communities.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. And then I just think back to, and I know I don't want to spoil it because we're going to get into it in chapter 6, but it's just that, you know, they control our self-image, therefore control our self-esteem, and they do it to benefit them. But it had me think of I'm looking at a lot of these black women, and I'm gonna say something on Facebook, probably won't get a lot of likes or shares. I don't care. I don't post for likes or shares. I know people are gonna, I know you're gonna have to, Sister Alima. You know, I know my sister gonna like it. If I don't get one like, it's gonna be Sister Alima, Sister Camille, and Brother Knowledge Born. Brother Knowledge.
And Brother Sean.
That's right.
Yeah, he gonna, and Brother Paul Robeson, he's gonna like it. I know. It's just that tomorrow I wanted to speak on that. It's been really weighing on me. A lot of these sisters, you know, buying the $600, $700, $800 weave. You know, I see them on Instagram. You know, now they have videos where the sisters will shake their hair. I mean, they will. You know, I'm trying to. I can't even do it. They'll boot their hair like this. Now, this is mine. This is mine. But they head like this, and the weave is going this way, and you know, and then when I pull up these sisters, sis, why don't you, why do you invest $600 in this, and you could be, putting this in a bank account or a savings account or investing in, and they say, because I don't like my hair. I don't like my hair. So they have created this self-image. They put the Nicki facade, that's what I call her. They put the Nicki facade or Nicki Minaj in front of our babies. They put a lot of these celebrities in front of our babies with these long weaves. This is them controlling the self-image.
Right.
Our daughters are looking at this as a standard of beauty. Maybe this is how I'm supposed to look. I'm supposed to. I remember I had this is my daughter Brianna, her best friend at the time. She got to high school. Beautiful little girl, beautiful, brilliant little girl. And she was natural, brown skin little girl, natural hair. She went to high school. And when I saw her junior year, she had tracks glued all in her hair, weave down. And I said, well, why did you do this? And she said, well, I wanted attention from the guys. And she said the guys they weren't checking for her until she started putting the weave in her hair and, and doing that. So anyway, we're allowing them to set our standard of beauty at this point. And we don't benefit from that standard of beauty. It's not like this $600 hair is going to, some type of cosmetic company that's owned by us. These products are not, we don't own and control these products. You get what I'm saying? And so we're allowing them to define our self-image, to define what is beautiful. And then we have our little girls aspiring to be that, and we have our little boys chasing that. You get
right. That's cultural imperialism. When
Absolutely.
you impose your culture and a different culture on a group of people. That's cultural imperialism.
It would seem like slowly but surely that the natural hair movement is re-emerging. But what I find interesting is that the media, they have noticed that the natural hair movement is on the rise. So now most of the natural hair products are created by white people. And I don't even think that a lot of the natural sisters per se even realize that Shea Moisture is no longer owned by Black people. A lot of the major natural hair care products that we use are not marketed by us. They're marketed for us, not by us. We don't manufacture it. We don't sell it. And then I'll see a local sister who might be making her own natural hair care products, but you don't want to buy from her. Right. But you'll go buy from L'Oreal, and spend the same pricing. You know what I'm saying? That's a little bit off topic, but it just brought me to mind, of what you guys were speaking on. Well, and them controlling their self-image, because although we're moving into the natural, they're still controlling that. They're controlling the product.
Keep making the money.
That's right.
Now you can go to Burger King and get a veggie burger.
That's right. That's facts.
Right. They trick you by putting African labels on it. You got to do your research. That's what I did. I found out which ones, even the Koreans, they.
That's right, Queen.
Remember they did that on A Different World.
A Different World, you said?
Yeah, I remember that TV show, A Different World. They had those products that they were selling, Nubian Other Now, and everybody was breaking out. And you see what I'm saying? So I wanted to read something from The Falsification of African Consciousness.
Okay.
Page 40. He said, Dr. Amos Wilson says, when we suffer from social amnesia, we identify with abstractions. I am not Black. I am not African. I am a human being. I am an American. Sterile, abstract identity. The closer we get to it, the less we see of it, and the more we recognize that it has no meaning. What is that? Who is that? What does it stand for? What does it mean? So, talking about what we're dealing with right here in regards to self-evaluation, if these questions aren't answered first, if another place in this book, he said, even among the people that we purport to be conscious, because we went through consciousness last week, even the people we purport to know African history and be proud, are they proud because they're proud, or they're proud because they're trying to prove themselves to white people? You understand what I'm saying? That's what he says in another place in the book. Even with he called this social amnesia. So with the social amnesia, leads to this crisis, this identity crisis, and this identity crisis was speaking into, what we just read about, and how these things come in and take the place of, how you see yourself. So that self-evaluation is showing you largely that you are not in control of how you see yourself if you're taking in these things externally. If you're not self-defining, if you're not looking from within and then getting confirmation outside as a aversion to outside influencing how you see yourself on the inside. you know, and, you know, largely when we look at our families, we get that dynamic. So if you got love and honor and respect in your family household, you went outside and you saw, you know, that confirmation that happened. You see what I'm saying? Which would be the total opposite. If you didn't get that love at home, you went and looked for war everywhere you could find it. You see what I'm saying? So, you know, with this social amnesia that he's speaking of, and with this self-evaluation, you know, bridging these two together with these particular writings, you know, showing us how important that is in our African developmental psychology. So that's what I just wanted to.
Yes, thank you. That was deep, brother.
Yes, it was deep.
Yes,
That was extremely deep.
Mm-hmm.
So he goes on to define the self system at the bottom. Well, did we get into the self ideal? Because I feel like I'm skipping.
No, we got to get into self ideal and then jump into ethnocentrism, self concept, and power.
So does someone want to read the definition of the self ideal?
I'm gonna try to summarize it. If we can try to summarize some things, family, I think that'll help to speed it along if we don't read verbatim on everything, if we can. Self-ideal, in essence, Coleman defines the individual self-ideal as the image of the person he would like to be and thinks he should be. Self-ideal sets limits on our aspiration. Self-ideal may be markedly the real self, or it could be your ideal self, who you may want to be or who you actually are. I think a lot of us have that concept, who we want to be and who we are right now. Anybody?
And he says that it's shaped by social conditioning and experience. So our self-identity, our self-evaluation, i.e. self-esteem, and self-ideal. He's saying they are all shaped by social conditioning and experience. Yes. So he says all of these things together form what he calls the self-system, a system that shapes and determines our behavior. All right. It says that the key elements, it says, I highlighted this at the top of 105, the key elements which are integrated into the self-concept of an individual, of a group or individual, may provide it or him with the power of self-determination, the power to act effectively in its own or his own best interest, or maybe the means by which it or he is controlled and made instrumentally to act in the best interest of others and to the detriment of his or its own interests. And so he's talking about the self system, and the self system determines our behavior. It determines how we interact with people, how people interact with us, and it also determines the power that people have over us, or the power that we have over ourselves. Yes. So the self system, I mean, oh my goodness. And this leaves me, I'm right now in my mind, I'm thinking about Dr. Naeem Akbar's book, The Community of Self, Sister Alima. That is a thin book. It's only about 70 pages, but it's a powerful 70 pages where he talks about the self as a community and the things that positively and adversely affect the self. And so, and you know, Dr. Naeem Akbar as Dr. Amos Wilson, they're both psychologists. So they talk about, you know, the self and how the self behaves and thinks and why we think and behave the way we do. So moving on to page 105, and as Sister Alima said, we're going to go ahead and summarize these things. He's going into ethnocentrism, self-concept, and power. And I'm at the bottom of page 105, where he says that self-identity, self-evaluation, and self-ideal combined as the self-concept are primarily related to and based on the individual's ethnic identity, even when and if the individual denies membership in a particular ethnic group. You heard people say, I'm not Black, I'm not African, right? So he's saying even when you deny your membership in a particular ethnic group, his identity is markedly influenced by the concept of ethnicity. So you can't escape that. OJ couldn't escape his Blackness. All right, so you can escape that. It says his identity is markedly influenced by the concept of identity. His behavioral and attitudinal orientations are still, to a significant degree, determined by his lack of an ethnic identity, by his ethnic anti-identity. He defines himself by who he is not. In other words, the ordinary self-concept of individuals and groups is to a measurably important degree ethnocentric, i.e., in good part determined by the view the individual or group has of his or its ethnicity. Wow. So how you feel, your concept, your self-concept, he's saying is determined. He said partly or measurably, he said important degree. He said it's ethnocentric. So it's based on how you even view your ethnic group. So your self-concept is also affected. So we know that it's socially conditioned, right? Yeah. But it's also affected by how you view your particular ethnic group. So Horton and Hunt goes on to say ethnocentrism is the tendency for each group to take for granted the superiority of its culture. Ethnocentrism makes our culture into a yardstick with which to measure all other cultures, which are good and bad, high or low, right or queer in proportion as they resemble ours. Why it is customary in America, especially among Blacks, to denounce ethnocentrism and to hold it responsible for the most heinous expressions of white racism and racial hatred. It is also important that we take note of the fact that all known societies are ethnocentric. Sis, when I was thinking about this paragraph, he's right. A lot of people think that ethnocentrism is wrong. I don't think that it's wrong for white people to feel good about white people. I don't think it's wrong for Asian people to feel good about Asian people. You know? So, you know, I don't think it's wrong for anybody to be ethnocentric. Now, when you're ethnocentric to the degree where you want to dominate, exploit, or annihilate people, that's when I have a problem with your ethnocentrism. But I don't think that it's wrong for any race or any particular group of people to have pride in themselves. I see nothing wrong with that.
That's right. Your ethnic identity says who you are in a sense. So when a group of people it seems like African people, our ethnic identity right now is wrapped into wanting to be more like Europeans. Yes. And if we were to only notice that, if we were to reclaim and be proud in the fact that we are African, then we're more in the mindset of actually being African people.
And what amazes me is that, you know, you tell people that they're African people and they say, well, you know, African people, everybody heard this one, you know, African people don't like us. Right. You know what I mean? You hear that one all the time. But it amazes me that you have to be like somebody from Africa can come over here, like everybody from Africa that comes over here knows who they are. You know what I mean? And they define who you are. You know what I mean? Why can't you be African because you know who you are? It's like that if somebody from Africa, I've met Africans who have that attitude, you know what I mean? But Ababa corrected me because I was a lot of times in a lot of ways negative towards Africans. Like he told me that you don't get the warriors that stay over here. You know what I mean? The Africans that you're talking about, that is the warriors and it's about nationalism, they fighting for Africa. And they're about, you know, they'll come over here like Kwame Nkrumah and get an education, but they're about going back to Africa to help rebuild Africa. A lot of times you get the Negro Africans, because our Negro Africans, you know what I mean? They come over here and that they don't have a knowledge of self and they don't value Africa. And a lot of times we define ourselves through them. I don't define myself through anybody. I know that I'm an African. So I don't have to have somebody to give me approval to be African.
Exactly. Tell it, brother. Exactly. It says, what you say, Queen?
I said, ashe to that.
Yes, ashe. Baba says that ethnicity provides a primary basis for social identity and a group definition, organization, and solidarity. The taking of pride in one's ethnic group is basis for holding oneself in high or positive self-esteem. An appropriately high level of group pride or ethnocentrism combined with effective group organization generates group social power. So what he's saying is when you effectively organize and you have a high level of ethnic identity in who you are, that in essence is what's going to help generate your group social power. And that makes sense because you all know who you are. You can't be in a group of people where half of you saying you're Moors, the other ones are Africans, the other ones are Hebrews. It's just not going to work. And I've heard the sentiments that it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter if I see myself as a Moor and if you see yourself as African, that we could still build, and I have to disagree because we don't even have the same identity. So we're not going to have the same goal because you think that you're from here. I want to repatriate. So we're already on two different pages.
Right.
Exactly. And I understand Noble Drew Ali. Noble Drew Ali didn't have the consciousness and the availability of the knowledge that we have today. They, you know, many of my relatives who come out of the Moore Science Temple, they were trying to recover. They was coming from the South, didn't have a lot of material to come to the understanding that we have today. Noble Drew Ali was, you know, grabbing information. They was trying to recover. You know what I mean? Today we understand. We have the internet. We have access to go back to Africa. We have Dr. Ben, Dr. John Henry Clark. Noble Drew Ali didn't have that. You know, he didn't have that kind of ability to come to an understanding of Africanness like we have today. So I don't hit him up. But the brothers that you're talking about today, yeah, they're very anti-African. Many of the ones I see today.
They didn't teach them that. They didn't learn that from Noble Drew Ali. They learned it from Tyrone Drew Ali. They learned it from Tyrone. No, they learned it from Tyrone and Nut Ali.
That's right. That's
right. You understand what I'm saying?
That's right. That's right.
So they got the remix. You see what I'm saying? When because we go with the trends. You see what I'm saying? That's how far the identity crisis has come. You see what I'm saying? So whether we're on the continent or whether we here as the products of the diaspora, we get fed the same type of information. So it's easier to say, you know, it's easier if they say, well, how you African? You claiming the whole continent. What is America? Is America one of the 7 continents? You know, last time I checked, like, so you talking about you are Moorish American, so you claiming 2 continents as well. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes,
you talking about a place that's in Northern Africa, and you saying you indigenous to this landmass. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, but that's, you know, what Dr. Bobby Wright calls menticide. You see what I'm saying? So we can see the misinformation that's going on that goes both ways. You see what I'm saying? There's misinformation on the continent. You know, they're bad and bougie and they bleaching their skin and they got the highest statue of that Caesar Borgia up there and all of that. You see what I'm saying? But they're getting their influences from white America and they're calling it black culture. You see what I'm saying? Just like we're getting our influences from white America and calling it black culture. You know, we got soul food. You understand what I'm saying? All of this stuff, like, you know, even you know how we communicate with one another. You understand what I'm saying? So we got all of our identity from this identity crisis. We got this from our step parents. You see what I'm saying? So our standards of success, our standards of beauty, you know, all of these things. You see what I'm saying? How we eat, when we eat, and we eat 3 meals a day and all of that. We got all of that from white America. You see what I'm saying? So that's reflective all over the world. And we've seen what happened every single time an organization challenged white authority. You see what I'm saying? In Dr. Bobby E. Wright's book on page number 6, he said, the white sheriffs and the white judges showed the greatest hostility when blacks began to quote the law to them. So if you look at this point that we was talking about, look at the Black Panther Party. You know, one of the 10 points on the 10-point program, the first one is we want freedom, we want the power to determine our own destiny in our own black community. That's illegal. You understand? So because if I'm benefiting from you going to prison and going to the mental institution or the cemetery, why would I make you my equal? I brought you here to be my subordinate. You understand what I'm saying? To benefit off of your suffering, to benefit off of your destruction, off your black powerlessness. You see what I'm saying? So why would I give you black power unless I'm accompanying that with a paycheck so I can, you know, I can control how far that black power goes. You see what I'm saying? So even in the black power identity, even in, you know, the black power, you know, days of old, you know, they was white funded. You see what I'm saying? So they didn't turn down the white dollars. So you know when they came to infiltrate and destroy it was just that easy. You see what I'm saying? And we're looking at all of these movements, every last one of them. You can't point to one nowadays that don't got some white influence. You see what I'm saying? Whether you see it apparently, because we was just talking about the dominant culture's approach. You see what I'm saying? Influence. So it's apparent when you look at these organizations apparently are marching to the tune of white America. Period. Or they can't exist.
Yes.
Absolutely. Brother
So in the
Malcolm.
words of Brother Malcolm, he said, the same rabid dog that bit you bit me. So when we look at the Africans that's coming over and we see the ones that's in America, we got bit by that same rabid dog. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I was saying that a few weeks back. I was like, yeah, because I know I've been to the continent, and I never saw so many wigs and weaves. I was just astounded my first visit. I was like, wow. And the pictures of white Jesus everywhere. I mean, talking like marquee size pictures. It really crystallized the amount of damage and destruction that they did to Africa to even bring us here and to have control over the continent like that.
Man, that's deep.
That's right, but they colonized everywhere. They didn't just colonize. I tell people that all the time. You know, when I explain to people of how many sisters I saw with weaves and wigs, like Sister Camille was just saying, and that the average person was a Muslim or a Christian, it blows people's minds. For some reason, they don't understand that Africa was colonized as well.
Absolutely.
And even harder to a sense, I would say, because at least we are starting to emerge somewhat out of it. And it seems like they are starting to more heavily, act more of a Black culture as opposed to an African culture.
I find that in Ethiopia too. I used to date a girl from Ethiopia. They got color issues. They don't like Nigerians, a lot of them. And, they're about this hair texture and this color. You know what I mean? A friend of mine adopted a kid from Ethiopia because the mother disowned the kid because he didn't have what she defined as good hair. The kid is in America now. He brought the child to the United States, and him and his wife raised the kid, but the mother disowned the kid because he didn't have European skin and European hair texture.
That's sad.
Out of Ethiopia, out of Ethiopia.
Who defines good hair? Again,
right.
The Europeans. I find that in a lot of Ethiopians, they have deep color issues.
I don't know how somebody with fur. I don't know how somebody with fur can define what's good hair and what's bad hair. They got fur. I don't get that.
We're not even gonna get into that because biologically, I'm not even gonna take it there. We're not gonna do that. We're gonna save that for the On the Raw Squad. But we're going to Resurgence of the African Mind Book Club. We want to get through this chapter, family. Let's get to this last page. We go into chapter 6.
We going, sister.
All right. Okay, page 107.
Hold on, sis. I just wanted to read at the bottom that he says that ethnocentrism helps to increase a group's probability of surviving and maintaining its autonomy, thereby providing its members with a modicum of protection or freedom from the negative impositions, tyrannies of outsiders. So ethnocentrism provides the basis for a group or national consciousness, reinforces nationalism and patriotism, provides the emotional preparation for identifying with personal and group interests, and justifies and sanctifies individual sacrifices for maintaining group integrity and existence. So he says that ethnocentrism helps to increase our probability of surviving and maintaining our autonomy, our freedom. So taking pride in our ethnic group will increase our probability of surviving. Because we're thinking as a group, we want to survive as a group. So we're taking pride within that group. But when you don't have that ethnocentrism, then we can allow anybody to come in and to divide and conquer. We can be easily divided and conquered when we're not ethnocentric. All right. So I just wanted to add that, Sister Alina.
Yeah, he was actually about to sum all that up. If y'all haven't noticed, Baba reiterates a lot of stuff because I think he tries to hit home certain points. So sometimes when I be skipping on, it's because he's going to reiterate the same thing again on the following page. I just want to throw that out there because I notice sometimes people read certain things, but we've read pretty much the same thing. It's just, said a different way. I just want to throw that out there. Because he goes on to say in 107, what you just said, that when a group's ethnic pride is negated, its ethnocentric self-esteem is lowered, its members are demoralized, its unity is threatened by integration, its mental and physical agility and stamina fatigue, its power is dissipated.
So then he says an attack on a group's ethnicity is an attack on its center of power. To control
That's
the
right.
definition and depiction of a group's ethnicity is to control a group's self-definition, its self-perception, and thereby tantamount to the reactionary control of its behavior. Wow.
So it's like they can set a scene and then predict the way you're going to behave based off what they've said. That's funny.
Isn't that what they do, Sister Alima? Like
That's what they do. Yes, all the time.
When I think about when I think about the urban communities, you know, with all of the things that they orchestrate, you know, when they find something, whether they find drugs or prostitution or whatever they find, it's like, aha, I knew it was there. But you're not
right.
talking about you bringing in the drugs.
That's right.
Getting it into the neighborhoods. Then you're sending the cops into that neighborhood, right, to make arrests. But you've orchestrated the whole thing. And then when it happens, you're like, aha, I knew it. You know what I mean? So that's just what came to mind, sis, when I was reading this.
That's what they do. This last page, I wanted to touch on the last paragraph. Ethnocentrism need not lead to racism. Pride of ethnicity empowers a group to best actualize its human potentials and possibilities, enhance its quality of life, and maintain autonomy. Once again, Africans must not reject positive ethnocentrism for that reason. For to reject positive African ethnocentrism is to reject Black power. So to reject your identity as an African person is to reject Black power. You can't say I'm not an African and say Black power at the same time.
And people do it, Sister Alima.
Oh, they do it. Oh, they do it.
It's like they went from, I remember, you know, people went from unapologetically African to now you see as unapologetically Black, because there were people who did not want to call themselves or identify with being African. So they changed it from unapologetically African to unapologetically Black.
That's right.
So I'm with you. You can't scream Black power and then not identify as an African person.
But how do we define like elders who like C.L.R. James, who you know, was a powerful Pan-Africanist? They were married to white women, but they wrote profound books. Do we, you know, Sheikh Anta Diop also was married to a white woman. You know, a lot of these. Yeah, well, they said it's Diop because what happened is the Marumba Ani corrected that. Diop preferred the term Diop, not Joe. Yeah, Marumba Ani did that in the lecture. He said he preferred the word Diop. Yeah, Marumba Ani. Yeah, but yeah, they a lot of them were married to Europeans. That's what I find strange. They write profound books, but they don't have the Black woman.
Check this out. And Sister Alima and I, we did a whole hour show.
We had this show on this already.
You gotta check it out in the archives, King. We did a show, and you guys go to YouTube and just Google it. We asked the question: can you be pro-Black and marry outside your race?
No.
And we said, you said no, but then
I said yes.
Yeah, we said yes. He said no.
He said no.
Yeah, Brother Travis said no. We said yes. And Brother Travis, the reason why we said yes, that you can, because it is based on your definition of pro-Black. And we emphasize that it's a difference between being pro-Black and race first. Like a white person can be pro-Black. I mean, you get what I'm saying? An Asian person can be pro-Black. But, you know, are you race first? And so if you are a race first person and you tell me you're married to a white person, I have a problem with that.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? He may not race first. Pro-Black, but he may not be race first.
Exactly.
And you got to think, if you're race first, then by default, you're pro-Black. But just because you're pro-Black, by default, that doesn't mean that you're race first.
Exactly.
I can't. I'm trying to put my mind around it. I gotta digest that. You know what I mean? Because
if you have 12,000 talking about they pro-Black. Running out here trying to get roles. They need to stay out. They don't need to get out. They need to stay out.
I gotta digest that, sister. I will wrestle with that, because I mean, it's not like they didn't have access. Diop was the level of access that he had all the way back to ancient Kemet. You know what I mean? He was the one who set the stage for what we Dr. Ben studied to come to the understanding of our ancestry all the way back to ancient Kemet was Diop, John Henry Clark also. But for him not to come to the understanding is that, you know, you supposed to have, as an African, you know, you're supposed to have a African woman. Same thing with Nkrumah. He married that white Egyptian. Here you are, you head of a country, and you are a leader, but you don't think that you're supposed to have the black woman, the African woman, with you. You know, I got to grapple with that. I'll grapple with that. Yeah. But I see what you're saying, though, sisters. I do see what you're saying.
Because you're always,
yeah,
you can be infiltrated.
Yeah, I do see what y'all saying, though. But I definitely it's just I find it strange for somebody with that much intelligence.
Well, I agree.
Still, he's probably
even Barack Obama knew to go get a black woman, and his mama is white.
Yeah, but he had a white woman after that white woman left him.
If you were tourist,
No, he left the white woman. Get it correct. He left her.
That's not what she's saying.
That's what that cracker gonna say anyway. She got he saw Michelle and all that brownness coming through, and he had to get with Michelle.
Yeah, he said, I'm out. He said, I'm out.
He said, stay out.
All right. Kick off chapter 6 for us. Kick off chapter 6. Do the knowledge.
I got you. Power and personality, chapter 6. We have previously intimated that power generated and expressed by a particular group reflects in good part its social structure and organization. Y'all want me to keep reading?
Yes. Basically, no, you don't really have to keep reading because, like Sister Alima said, we don't want to go verbatim. But chapter 6, power and personality, he's saying on his page in summary that a group is only as effective as its members. So, the skills, abilities, character, and actions. So overall, the personality of this individual, of the individuals, will determine the power generated by this particular group. And that's essentially what he's saying on page 109. So I don't think that we need to read it verbatim. I think we can go into page 10 because that's what he's talking about, the personalities of the individual.
He sums it up on 110 at the before he gets into personality differences at the division labor paragraph.
I'll read that. In sum, the personality characteristics of a group's membership or the overall general personality or heavily influence the group's ability to solve problems. The power of a group reflects of its members.
Is it me or Brother Knowledge Born? Were you chopping up a little bit, or is it my?
Yeah, he was choppy a little bit.
Okay. Okay, so the personality and characteristics of a group's membership, the overall general personality orientations of the members of a group heavily influence that group's ability to solve problems, because that's what it's all about when you want to survive and thrive in the world. Can you solve the problem? You know, can you adapt to your environment? You know, can you survive? I mean, that's what it's about, solving our problems. And so it's saying that the group's ability to solve problems is based on the personal characteristics of the members of that particular group. All right. So, now we're in the subsection personality differences as a division of labor. He goes on to say that the members of a group, society, or culture function together to enhance the group's survivability and serve to maintain its adaptability. So then he says personality differences within the group. And I started thinking about, remember when we all were building like a week ago or maybe the week before, we started talking about how organizations fail because of the ego, Sister Alima. Yes. And we were talking about how can we come together and organize like a hierarchy within the organization when you're dealing with so many different types of personalities and a major problem. And we kind of went in on the conscious community a little bit last week. We were saying that it's a lot of ego clashing, So, I thought about that when I read these two sentences. Personality differences within a group provide a pool of alternative ideas and behaviors with respect to customary and routinized ideas and behaviors which, if appropriately utilized, increase the probability of the group's adapting effectively to changing conditions by making needed changes within its own structure and functioning. So he said personality differences within a group will increase the probability that some persons within may recognize and make other members of a group aware of changing and new conditions, propose new modes of behavior, and motivate other group members to make the necessary changes for effectively dealing with change or new circumstances. So I get what he's saying. He's saying that these personalities, the differences between the different personalities, that can be a positive thing, because you got different people coming into the organization, bringing new perspectives and fresh ideas. But then it can also be a negative thing if these personalities clash. So, you know, but he's being optimistic right now. I don't know if he's ever.
And it's showing both, you know, sides of the coin in regards to the lens, you know, the Eurocentric view versus the Afrocentric view. So, you know, the ego that we see, you know, within the dynamic of the community is virtually, you know, still susceptible from that Eurocentric lens. You see what I'm saying? We have not become African, you know. So if Brother Travis or Dr. Maat or anybody here can do something better than me, I'm looking to ways to support that. You see, that's the African in me, recognizing the value of your contributions and strength. So, you know, that everybody's coming in with a different dynamic is good when you're in the right state of mind. But when you're in the wrong state of mind, it could be to the organization or the collective goal's detriment. You see,
you know, I thought of Huey P. Newton and Eldridge Cleaver, two big egos. Powerful warriors, but two big egos with the Black Panthers. He took on the East Coast, and of course Huey stayed on the West Coast. And you know, that breakdown of it was two egos, I think, clashing. Talking about that very thing, I was thinking about that.
That's right. It says on 111, personalities compose a group are key sources of its power. So personalities themselves are sources of power, and that's true. You think about how a person can come to fame and stardom, and how their personality can be so captivating and people follow them. And, you know, that's a source of power. People will buy products just because you market them. You know, they'll wear what you wear, do their hair like you do your hair, just because of your personality. So I definitely agree. It definitely is a source of power.
I know, and I just thought about, and I don't want to call any names, but sis, I'm thinking about the conscious community right now and the different speakers that have come past and how people have gravitated to them, not because of the content that they bring or the information that they bring, because they like their personality.
That's right.
That was it. So Baba Amos Wilson goes
lack of message.
Right. So Baba Amos Wilson goes on to define personality on page 111. He says, we shall define personality without claims of definitivity as more or less enduring psychophysically organized ways of thinking, feeling, desiring, and behaving, as they are assumed to be partly determined by an individual's fairly consistent or characteristic attitudes, values, perceptions, motives, and other abilities, all of which may be said to uniquely describe him or her as a person. So he goes on to say it is important to note in this context that personality is generally perceived as organized as a dynamic organization of traits, tendencies, abilities, intentions, and behavior. That is the personality.
Wow.
And then at the bottom, he defines the contents of the personality. He said it in the top, like Sister Alima said, Baba Amos Wilson, he wants to put it in you. So he's very, very repetitive. So he says the contents of personalities, the contents of personality, its abilities, tendencies, interests, tastes, and the nature of their dynamic organization largely determine the power of the person. And in the context of our current discussion, the contribution, for better or worse, he can make to his group, society, and or culture. So your personality will determine how powerful you are, and what kind of contributions you can make to your group. I mean, your family, your group, your society. He says in your culture. Moving on to page 112.
Are we taking those people that we hold in such high esteem and regard through this particular list to develop standards? You see what I'm saying? Are we taking them through that? Can this person or this brother or this sister advance us in this manner? Then we could give them that support. If not, then
Exactly.
you see what I'm saying? It should be requisites.
That's right.
You know, we have standards for everything else except for the thing that's most vital to us. So we put more standards on, you know, what kind of car we drive versus who's leading us. You understand what I'm saying? It's like a car gotta look like this and have this in it and blah blah blah. Then I say, well, who should be teaching your children? Oh, it don't matter.
Wow.
What?
That's right.
You understand what I'm saying? Like, well, who should be qualified to give us this type of information? What type of requisites? What type of free requisites? You see what I'm saying?
I totally agree. And you know what I find? Anybody with a YouTube channel and got a few followers, they self-declare themselves as leaders. You know what I mean? I don't see the work, meaning that a lot of them that they claim to be leaders, they were never part of any organization. And I've seen a few of them that when they get persecuted, they quickly run and say, you know, they're not a part of this or they're not a part of that. It should be some type of litmus when you were part of something that, you know, as a movement that you got, you know, tested and tried. Anybody who starts a YouTube channel and begins to have followers claim to be leaders.
That's very true. Or anybody who seems to regurgitate pertinent information.
Yes, yes,
Anybody
yes.
can do that. Anybody can read a book, disseminate it, and give the information to the people. That doesn't make you a leader.
Right.
My thing is, where are your political contacts?
Yes.
Where
yes.
are your contacts politically that you have some type of basis to say you can even form a leadership?
Yeah, yeah. That's what I mean. You hit it on the money right there. So it's a lot better than I tried to say it.
Absolutely.
Where did you come from, and what do you stand on?
Yes, exactly.
Where did you come from?
Yes.
And what do you stand on?
Exactly.
Where's your resume?
All right.
Yeah.
Where's your resume, and what makes you qualified?
Thank
You know,
you.
That's right.
absolutely.
Talking, that's all.
Yep. That's
It says on 112, what is most remarkable about individuals who form distinct groups is their exceedingly high level of conformity and obedience to customary values, expectations, and legal standards. He goes on to say an effectively functional group must maintain some necessary measure of conformity and unanimity if it is to achieve its goals in a planned and coordinated manner.
And so
The
you just
individual-
talked about that, Sister Alima. Remember, you said, how can I be Afrocentric or African-centered? This person wants to be a Moor. This person wants to be a Muslim. This person, you know, like you said, like you just said, it says the individuals who form distinct groups is their exceedingly high level of conformity. You have to conform to something. And what is that something? You know?
That's right.
You know, I noticed that he emphasizes that throughout page 112. Conformity, unanimity, you know, conform. I see that several times. Self-preservation. So all of those things, conformity, obedience, you know, all of these things are important, you know, into forming, you know, all of these things are important when you want to form a group to achieve goals. You have to conform. And you have people who just don't want to conform.
Right.
Goes back to that individualism. Back to that individualism. Yeah.
Towards the bottom, it says the individual is attracted to the group in terms of his and its commonality of interests, values, and goals. The success and status of the group, its exclusivity, its ability to provide him security and anxiety reduction, and to relieve him of loneliness and alienation, among other things. So Coleman is saying that this is why we join groups, to make ourselves, as we stated earlier, more comfortable and to find people who share our common goals. It says in some that, oh, go ahead, brother.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. It says in some, the predominant social system and those who define and control it substantially help to shape the organized personalities of its individual members. So it's saying that whatever group that you're a part of, whether you want to or not, it's going to in some way shape your personality because groups seek conformity.
Absolutely. I'm thinking about my family, and a lot of my friends say that I act just like my aunt. But you're right. You start mimicking and acting like the people that you surround yourself with.
Right.
That's the point. That's the point I was going to say. You know, in regards to the African family, we don't have to go outside of ourselves to see that. We can see everything within the scope of our family. So anything we see externally, we can find examples of it internally. So
Yeah.
when you deal with that family dynamic, you know, you can see successes and failures or whatever, and that can shape your identity if you know, paying attention to your family dynamic. So, you know, I think these people, you know, when they talk about individuality, I think they're really looking at that Euro view, because that Euro view is to the, like, if you've seen that movie Higher Learning, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yep.
that snot-nosed kid went from a snot-nosed kid to a sniper. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just to try to belong to that group. He said, you know, and one of the questions he asked, he said, what do you think they make you do? You know, I do it. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
That's how you get. That's how you get those people in the military. All of that. This is their mind. It's like an empty shell just waiting to be filled up. So you can put anything into that shell and fill it up. You see what I'm saying? So
deep.
That was deep. And I remember that movie. Like you learn. He said, "What do you think? Trying to get into the frat house?"
Right.
Said,
Right.
What do you think? And I would do it like
crazy stuff, man. And now today he's like one of those guys that's supposed to be acting like he's pro-black. You see what I'm saying? It's the same dude, you know, that was Remy from High Learning. You see? So,
oh yeah, I think I saw a video of him.
Yeah, that's how easy it is, right? That's how easy it is to, you know, for some Euros to come amongst us. They'll be like, oh yeah, he's black. He's light skinned. Crazy stuff like that. You see what I'm saying? So,
yeah, we give him the black card.
Yeah.
Sister Camille said, I see you, sis.
We can move on to the other directed African American personality, unless anybody else wants to talk more about it, because it's really reiterations.
Yep, I just like the fact, I just like on page 114, the only thing that I love, he says the personality is socializable. It's socializable. So your personality is socialized. Says the personality is a functional unit, social unit of society. So in a word, Black personalities created and formed by a white controlled social system are inherently self-defeating. The energy yielded by the conglomerate of Black personality empowers the dominant white controlled social system, as it empowers the potential of a Black controlled social system, or at least a social system equally controlled by Blacks and whites. So he ends this section with saying Black empowerment, Black power, whether epitomized by a relatively autonomous Black controlled social system, or by a social system equally controlled by Blacks and whites. He says it requires that the Black personalities of Blacks be organized by a Black controlled social system, so that its contents, abilities, tendencies, interests, and tastes are compatible with the self-preserving, liberated interests of that system and the individual interests of its members. So basically, he's saying that we have to be in control of molding and shaping our own personalities.
Exactly.
All right, in order to amass Black power. All right, but let's get into the, like you said, sis, the other directed African-American personality. Woo. And this section was deep.
Yeah, it was. It took me a little minute to read.
Yeah, this section was deep because he talked about different types of personalities. He was saying you could have a tradition directed personality, other directed personality, or an inner directed personality. So then he goes on to define all three of these terms. I believe that's what it did. I didn't. This is the one where he talks about the inner directed. Other directed.
He talks about intergroup interactions. And yes, this is the chapter though. He gets into the inner directed character, the traditional directed. Yes, he does define them as well, sis.
Okay, so I skipped, I went ahead about 3 pages, 5. I'm always, okay, my bad. All right, let's go. Let's go into the other directed African-American personality.
All righty. Baba says political socialization essentially involves the conservative process which facilitates the maintenance of the status quo by inducing people to accept the system under which they exist, to accept the decisions of the powers that be without questions. I think it's Barbagali. I don't know, something weird. Indeed, 1977, they want to talk about political socialization, and they say that we are socialized between birth and the age of 5 or 6. They say that's when the most socialization occurs within us. And that this is an important development phase into when we become teenagers. So they're saying that when we are little children, that is the most imperative time that our socialization skills are heightened, so to speak. It's when we take in the most, and it's what shapes us to be the teenagers that we're actually going to grow into be. They go into the bottom, it says that individuals react toward power and authority in characteristic ways in many different situations and over a relatively prolonged period of time. Their responses to power and authority are fairly predictable. So it's saying eventually over time, the way that we respond to things is basically can be predicted because we've been socialized to a certain extent. Baba goes on to talk about intergroup interactions. This is the interactions with other groups and how it can be detrimental or helpful to our group. It says groups in ways similar to individuals develop social role, determined attitudes and behaviors and awareness of self by their interaction with the environment. A role is a pattern of expected behavior associated with a given position in society. Through the process of fairly habitual and consistent interpersonal relations or interactions, the individual acquires or internalizes a number of influential values, attitudes, and judgments from others. This is called the socialization process. So they're saying that the socialization process are the relationships and interactions that we have with other individuals. That's what influences our values, attitudes, goals, morals, etc.
Absolutely.
We go on to 117. White domination requires that whites continuously seek to contain and control the character of the life space, i.e. the character of the environment and social experiences for which significantly influence the collective and individual personality and behavior of blacks. So they're saying that the whites always seek to control the way that we live, our environment, and our social experiences. Towards the bottom, the process of white supremacy is founded on a black-white mythical polarity. White imperialism and racism is founded and maintained on the basis of racial distinctions and the cultural behavioral differences attributed to them. The social meaning assigned to the racial polarity between black and white permeates every aspect of Eurocentric culture. Page 118, Baba has a chart for us. Table 6-1 speaks on complementary white, black, social, political, and personality role dispositions. I thought that this was interesting right here, this chart. And it breaks down white people in their roles and black people in our roles.
Yeah, that was good.
It was good, right? Yeah.
I did like that.
I thought it was interesting when they got to dichotomies. On the white side, it's like mind, culture, strength, good, reason, authority, light. And then on the black side is body, nature, weakness, evil, non-rationality, obedience, darkness. There's such a polarity between the two of us, how they view us. Intellectual dispositions, lower IQ for us, higher for them. We're global, diffuse, distractible. They're obsessive, precise, and analytical. They wish.
I saw that. I was actually quite offended, Sister Lima, when I read the chart.
I was tickled because I don't view them this highly. So it was funny to me.
Yeah, I was highly offended when I was reading the column, like, wait a minute, you know. Like you said, it went into lower IQ. I was like, what? Lower IQ. Right. You know, it said weakness, evil. But this is, like you said, this is how they perceive us. I mean, it's really how we are perceived. When I was looking at social metric dispositions, another thing I saw that it says black, accepting of others, inclusiveness. We accept everybody. And then we feel bad when we don't. You know, we feel bad when we don't. You know.
Not me.
Well, a lot of people. We do either.
I feel at peace. The less I deal with white people, the more peace I get.
I know that's right. I try to stay far away from them. I get anxiety when I'm around them. Like,
the more you feel more centered, the more you get free from the system, and you don't deal with them for a couple. Like, you know, I go on a vacation and I deal with do a lot of things with culture, and you know, I feel more centered when I'm not around them at all, and I'm not communicating with them.
You and me both.
Right. Ashe.
But towards the bottom, let's keep going on, family. 118. For compliance to be voluntary, the hierarchical ordering of the power relations and the exercise of power must be considered legitimate by the subjects of that power. I thought that was deep. So they're saying that in order for someone to be voluntarily compliant, then they have to see the people that they're compliant to as a higher, hierarchically wise, higher than them. So basically, we see white people as higher than us, and so we voluntarily comply with what it is that they put forth because we see them as, you know, the people to be.
And see, sis, and I spoke about this. I think that that's the danger. And I spoke about it. I know I even read some books by named Akbar and his Breaking the Chains of Psychological Slavery, when he talks about the adverse effects of racial religious iconography. He's saying that that's one of the major effects of, you know, seeing a white Jesus when you go to church. Even though people will say, well, Jesus is not a color, or, you know, there's no, you know, Jesus, they'll say he's not a color, or Jesus is not black nor white, but they'll show you a picture of a white Jesus, right? You know, what that does is it subconsciously makes us look at white people as being inferior. I mean, I'm sorry, not inferior, superior. That's because you're looking at the image of God, and this image of God is white. And then, so you leave church and then you go into the public school system where you have 80% of the people teaching our babies are white. So you begin to look at whiteness. I'm not even going to say whiteness, right? It's really no such thing. But you begin to look at Europeans as the authority figures. You know, you see it in church, right? The image of God is white. And then you go to school and you see your teacher. Your teachers may be white.
That's right.
So they begin to think of whiteness as superior to you. And so, you know, I just wanted to add that, Sister Alima. So we accept them as being superior because we, you know, we've been conditioned to do so.
That's right.
That's right.
Well, Baba goes on and he's about to break it down for us and let us know how we got that way. And he says white supremacy, whatever form it takes, wherever it exists, must achieve three major goals if it is to socialize blacks into accepting its natural rights of final authority and primary privilege. It must establish human racial ideal as white in contrast to black. It must proclaim that blacks are innately destined to serve whites and that their fulfillment of their true nature requires their happy commitment to this service. Finally, it requires that blacks be persuaded that they are incomplete without whites and that their highest calling involves the sacrificing of themselves for the benefit of whites. You know, that made me think of how a lot of Negroes saying that where would we be if the whites didn't come and get us from Africa? And they'll use examples of some starving children in certain parts of Africa and say, so just think, I mean, we'd still be in Africa starving if they didn't come and get us.
Wow.
Woo.
Oh, yes, I've actually heard this from some people.
Oh, yeah.
National Geographic took care of that. National Geographic took care of that.
I've heard people say that, I actually had a debate with a custodian at Morgan State because she told me, I said to her, I said, well, because she was, you know, advocating Christianity, you know, to me. And I asked her, I said, well, you know, that's the European's God. That's the white man's God. Who's your God? And she said, well, did black people have a God? You know,
My God.
You know, so this is really under the impression that we had no God, that we had no sense of morality until the Europeans came and introduced Christianity to us. Real talk. So, Sister Alina, you are 100% correct, you know, in your assumption that you got people that think we didn't have a God. You got people who think, you know, that we were just starving, that we were just barbaric. I mean, this is what happens when you permit the dominant group to control your self-definitions, your self-image, your self-concept, your self-evaluation. You begin to internalize these racial myths.
Yep. Internalize white supremacy.
That's right.
Right. So if you esteem them as the God, we know what polarity is. We know what balance is. So if you say, if you see them as the God, then you have to see yourself as the devil. You understand what I'm saying? Naturally, you have to, you know, be diametric.
Oh no, we losing the brother.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
Breaking up.
I must be devil.
Do the knowledge. What you got? Metro PCS?
I got track.
Boost
I got
Mobile?
track. I think
Yeah,
I got
I can tell. You got some Boost Mobile or something going on over here.
I got trunk care over here. I got trunk care.
Oh, you got that 2G internet.
Hey.
I got that one Trump internet right here.
Trump got that 2G.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. White supremacy
Oh, go ahead.
blacks to achieve this end through its ability to pattern and structure the external and experiential world of blacks, and through this process induce them to unconsciously incorporate into their collective psyche negative views of themselves. Under white supremacy, blacks are socialized or conditioned from conception to serve the will of dominant whites.
This was powerful. You're on page 119, sis?
Yes.
Yes, Queen.
Oh my gosh. He said blacks are therefore an extension of white agency. Did you already say that, sis?
Yeah.
No, keep going. What is?
I'm looking at page 119, second paragraph, second or third paragraph, where it says white supremacy posits that whites relative to blacks are autonomous agents who are free to set in order their own goals and priorities, and therefore to act in order to pursue. Did you already read that, sis? Okay. Act in order to pursue their own ends. It says blacks are by nature denied such autonomy and therefore are destined to act to achieve the goals set for them by whites rather than to act to achieve their own self-determined goals. He says blacks are therefore an extension of white agency. Says how blacks to voluntarily or naturally accept the role to which white supremacy has assigned them. He says this is accomplished by the creation and projection of racial myths. Didn't I just say that, sis? Racial myths against the background of ultimate reality by associating black with negative values and associating white with positive values, right? Remember, white is associated with positive values. God.
That's why.
What was it? God, beauty, you know, so all of these different
White rights.
Right? It says through white superiority. Okay, so by associating blacks with negative values and associating white with positive ones through myths of white superiority and black inferiority, blacks are required to internalize and integrate into their central identity the racial images and roles furnished them by whites. White supremacy controls, it conditions blacks to achieve this end through its ability to pattern and structure the external and experiential world of blacks, and through this process induce them to unconsciously incorporate into their collective psyche negative views of themselves. So this is an unconscious thing, Sister Alina. Remember, I was just talking about the image of God being white. That's dangerous. Yeah. The image of, you know, going to school every day and seeing, you know, I'm telling you, y'all, I'm gonna do this. And one day I'm gonna go into my son's school. I'm just gonna take pictures of the school. I'm telling you, you see white teachers. That's dangerous for him to go to school every day to see that image. So now he's gonna think that white is right, not white is right, but he's gonna think that he needs to, he's gonna view whites as authority figures. You know, you see it in church, and he doesn't go to church, but you see it in church, you see it at school, you see it on television, right? So now white is associated with positive attributes, right? Positive attributes or positive characteristics, and blacks are, you know, when you think of when you look at the different images of us, single black mom, the thug, the promiscuous girls, you're looking at all of these reality TV shows, you know, where people are oversexed, hypersexual, loudmouth, out of control. I mean, these are the images that are being projected of us. So anyway, he goes on to say that under white supremacy, blacks are socialized or conditioned from conception to serve the will of dominant whites. They are positively reinforced for conforming to the social roles assigned to them. They are made to suffer if they do not conform. You don't conform, you will suffer. And I'm not even saying at the hands of them, even at the hands of our own people, Sister Alima, when we don't conform to certain things, we get taunted and ridiculed by our own people. I remember when I first decided to go natural, this was in 1996, you know, in my family, I remember the first thing my mother said to me when I said I'm growing my perm out, this was after reading Anthony T. Browder's book, From the Browder File. I said, Ma, I'm going natural, you know. So I was 15. I'm reading the book. He's talking about, you know, perms and how your hairdo is a political statement. And so, you know, I really, you know, that was the book that woke me up in 1996. And when I first said I was going natural, my mother was totally against it. How are you going to get a job? What do you mean go natural? What are you going to do with your hair? You know, and then when I decided to lock my hair when I turned 18, she said it again. So, you know, when we don't conform, you know, to certain things, you know, their standard of beauty or what they deem as successful, you know, you do face ridicule, not only from them, but even from your own people. So I wanted to add that. And I want to end my statement with the last line that says, thus is the collective Black personality transformed and shaped to meet the demands of white supremacy. I have that underlined.
Yes.
I just wonder how much, since you gave that example about your mom and the things that she told you, I just wonder on the subject of of children being taught by strictly white people. Here in Atlanta, I would have to say that I think it might just been one white teacher in the entire school. So
Wow.
I still chose to homeschool my kids because for me, the Black representations, their teachers they act like white women. So they might as well been taught by white women. So it's one thing to be taught by someone who looks like you, but if you look like me, but you have the mindset of a European, you're not doing me any better than being taught by a white woman. I just have to throw that out there.
That's
I like that. Facts. That's a fact.
That is facts.
Yeah, those are clones.
Somebody snoring?
I know. What's that? Somebody just joined us.
It says, Kioma.
Yoma. Hello?
Hello.
Okay, mute her mic. Let's keep it moving.
Wrong if I hit the eject button. I would be wrong if I just hit the eject button, Sister Alima.
Just mute her mic. We're not going to do it dirty.
Okay, all right, okay.
All right, where we at? We on 120 now?
Yes.
120, second paragraph. Sister Camille, you got anything you want to read on 120?
Yes. Midway down the sixth line says the racially negative stereotyping of Blacks by whites, reinforced by the multifarious forms of racial discrimination practices by whites against Blacks, functions to reproduce in Blacks orientations and characteristics complementary to those of whites. Even in the case where the political disposition of many Blacks overlap those of whites, these dispositions are alienated and restricted in such ways as to motivate such Blacks to be supportive of the fundamental racial power status quo, or at least not to struggle for the complete reconstruction of the American political, economic system and the neutralization of the white power differential. So,
hey, y'all, I had to be honest with you. I was highlighting something. I'm lost. I'm like, I'm totally lost. Are we on 121?
120, first paragraph.
Okay, 120, first paragraph. Okay, good looking. Okay. All right, I'm with you.
So the subordination and increased vulnerability of African Americans to European American authority, Eurocentric ideology and propaganda, their addiction to the consumption of European American manufactured psychosocial and material products require that the African American political economic personality be to be rather more easily directed by others or outsiders than by itself or from the inside. It must seek its basic satisfactions and identity in the external world rather than its internal world. In other words, in order for Blacks to more readily respond to the social, political, and economic dictates of whites, they must be more intensely other-directed in their personality dispositions than tradition-directed or inner-directed, in contrast to the relatively more self-directed personality dispositions of whites, particularly the white ruling elite. The terms tradition-directed, inner-directed, and other-directed were first defined by David Reisman in his book, The Lonely Crowd. Yeah, so basically all our everything that we think and do that we think we're doing for ourselves is basically done for Europeans and for the betterment of their system.
Absolutely.
And if you have no concept of how propaganda works, you'll think you're, operating, on your own volition. But really, your thoughts and your tastes and things have been directed. Even in politics, when Black people see politicians, they just, that's another trick. They think that Black politicians are going to do things for Black people, but basically they work for the elite. So that's why nothing ever pans out to, to work for, in favor of Blacks.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And as brother Bourne stated earlier, he was saying how, like, when Elijah Muhammad called the white man the devil, when he, and I remember Dr. Amos Wilson also stated this in one of his lectures. He was saying that when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad came on the scene, he changed the taste of Black people.
Yes.
You know what I mean? By outright saying that the white man is the devil, and really, he started making people view, he changed the way we viewed them, which ultimately changed the way we viewed ourselves.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And today, Muhammad changed our taste when he came on the scene by making that strong statement, the white man is the devil, and telling people, they came from the caves. I mean, even though we know that whole Yaku story, and I'm not trying to offend anybody, but it was made up. It is what it is, sister.
It worked. Be nice. It worked.
But it worked. Like,
right.
When you started saying the Yaku, the wicked scientist, really, it worked. I mean, it worked. And so, even though it was, it was a myth. It wasn't, it never happened. There was no wicked scientists in the lab stirring up genes and separating the brown genes. Like, that never happened. Like, come on. But
grafting,
grafted and all. Like, let's stop. Okay. But no disrespect to to the teachers of Elijah Muhammad. But I see what he was doing. He was changing the taste and the interest of Black people. And that was how he was able to amass so much group power, or let's say ethnocentrism, by changing the taste and interest of Black people during that time. And so that was phenomenal. What he did was absolutely phenomenal.
Yes, it was. Because it centered us in spirituality. That's what's missing with a lot of these ideologies right out here right now. You think about when his son took over and he went the Orthodox Islamic way. Most of the business, I'm living in Detroit, most of the businesses that his father had created as institutions was gone when he went to that Orthodox Islam, because it took Black people out of the centeredness of the spirituality. Even today, you see the ones who are former members, they're part of the Al-Islam community, the Arabic community. You don't see group consciousness in them anymore. They don't have that sense of nationalism in themselves anymore. But the Arabs do, the people that they follow.
Oh yeah, the Arabs always will.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, they got esteemed as the chief good. That's what happened. They got esteemed as the chief good. So you just sort of like I was saying, when I was talking about organization, I said all of these organizations. You see what I'm saying? They even call what the most honorable Elijah Muhammad taught. Now you have babies in the organization calling it baby language. So they're being taught, by these people who came after, who built nothing, who established nothing, and who are doing nothing.
Exactly.
What the founder called baby language. In that language, built businesses, it built schools, it put brothers and sisters to work, it got people off of drugs, it got people off of welfare, and they had a network of $50 million. You see what I'm saying? Versus this baby language. And they say this is baby language. I agree with you, Dr. Maat, about the sentiments. It's a story. It's a story for a particular purpose. We got African stories that we pass down from generation to generation.
That's right.
With the hopes of, imparting a particular, lesson. What's the lesson in that? Don't trust them. You understand what I'm saying? So, okay, I'm not just going to say that they're the devil. I'm going to prove to you who you are by showing you how to clean yourself up, and how, through discipline and through sacrifice, you can make a lot of things happen. You see what I'm saying? So just how something could be used for your detriment, a story could be used as your detriment. A story could be used to motivate you. You see what I'm saying? And our mythos. generally as African people, we have to reclaim that identity.
And Europeans do deal with genetics, and they do deal with the science of trying to graft things. They do that.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, no, they do.
Mhm.
No, just
yeah.
the idea that they were grafted is not true.
Right. That's not true. No, that's not true.
Sorry,
Yeah,
people.
that's not true. That's not true. And I was just getting ready to say that, sister.
They are humans, family. I'm sorry, okay? They're not mankind. There's no such thing. They're humans like you, okay? And one of y'all pseudos is gonna answer for me one day. How in the hell can you say that a white person is mankind, but when they have a baby with a black person, you say they're black?
That's right.
Right, come on.
Because y'all just told them that they could be pro-black earlier. Y'all told them that they could be pro-black and have a baby with one of them dogs. That's why. Y'all gave them a license. Them studios going to be out right now talking about my milk of magnesia. Right. Yeah, what I'm saying? Don't give them the license. We trying to get the ones to stay home. The other ones need to stay out. We want the ones to stay home, and the other ones need to stay out. You understand what I'm saying? They could go hang out with David Banner and what's the other dude's name? Killer Mike and all that. We don't want you back. Go hang with OJ. We don't want that. Revoke your past.
Let's get back because we got 15 pages and it's already 9:08, and so we've been on for 2 hours. So I got probably 30 minutes in me, and that's about it. So the terms tradition directed, inner directed, and other directed. He defines these terms. He got the terms by Davis Reisman in his book, The Lonely Crowd. So he says when you're other directed, he said that is decreasingly reliant on their own consciousness and increasingly dependent upon other people for their ideas and actions. The other directed person is easily manipulated by the mass media. Sister Alima, you talked about that, the mass media, right? Mm-hmm. The mass media by demagogic or gagic leaders and by mass political movements. Tradition-directed character is found in traditional societies where obedience to family and adherence to traditional ways of life are dominant values. Says these things that are old and long established are considered good. Traditional norms are the dominant guide for individual behavior. Now, he says the inner directed character is associated with the rise of Protestantism and capitalism. Parents implant general rules and norms in the child at an early age. Mature, inner directed adults have internalized these values and norms and use them to guide their behavior throughout life, regardless of changing conditions or values of others around them. The values of the inner directed person in the Western world generally include respect for work and self-sufficiency, a desire for personal achievement and production, strong moral restraints on sexual behavior, devotion to family and children, the postponement and sacrifice of pleasure for future well-being, and emphasis on personal savings and the accumulation of wealth. But the important aspect of the inner directed person is an internalized gyroscope of behavioral guidance. Inner directed people are punished by feelings of guilt when they violate these inner norms. Question for the panel: are you a other directed, inner directed, or tradition directed person? According to these definitions.
Inner directed.
Inner directed.
Yeah, I'm inner directed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought about inner directed. I'm inner directed too.
Inner directed like a mug. I don't.
Yeah. So at the bottom, he goes on to say conformity results from the need to belong. I think we've already read something similar to that.
Yes.
Yeah, we've already read that. I'm on page 122. He's still elaborating on inner directed people, but I wanna inner directed people. He compares and contrasts inner directed people with other directed people on page 122. I'm in the second paragraph under where it says Parson and White provides us further insight. He says, where the inner directed person pioneered on the frontier of production. So inner directed person is about work and production. Other directed is about leisure and consumption. So he says the other directed is moving to the frontiers of consumption, right? Because they're easily led by different things and different people and mass media. So these people are most consumptive, right? So he says they're moving to the frontiers of consumption, not just consumption of goods, but of words, images, and personal relationships personal relationships themselves, particularly those aspects that deal with the minutiae of taste or speech or emotion, which are momentarily best. Approval is bestowed on those who embrace the momentarily right consumption preferences, the fandoms and lingos of the peer group. So somebody that is other directed, they're led by mass media, they are led by the peer group, they're led by others. They're not inner directed at all. So it says by attempting, I'm at the bottom, by attempting to create and maintain the conditions conducive to making the general African-American political, economic personality almost completely other directed, dominant white America not only discourages African-Americans striving for autonomy, which can only flow from the inner directedness, by manipulating their attentional focus on the single-minded pursuit of the immediate satisfaction of their needs and desires, they artificially conditioned and stimulated by whites on consumption and on the futile striving for white acceptance. It seeks to limit the imagination, restrict the vision, and narrow the range of interest, and lower the ceiling of aspirations of Black Americans compatible with its continuing supremacy. So he said, thus we may conclude from the foregoing discussion that the relative powerlessness of the African-American community in good part flows from its permitting its behavioral orientation and attentional focus to be reactionarily manipulated and its political disposition to be conditionally other directed by the white American community. So he ends by saying the achievement of true Black power by the African-American community and the Pan-African community, first and foremost, requires that these communities reconstruct their moral, social, psychological predispositions founded on an inner-directed, African-centered self-knowledge, self-awareness, and self-identity.
Indeed.
Afrocentrism.
Now, Sister, now, absolutely. Now, Sister Alima, you may have to paraphrase this next subsection, because I'm gonna be honest, I have the whole page highlighted from the other directedness of the model African political economic personality. I have it all the way to the word action on page 125.
No.
It was a lot. It was powerful. And so I have a lot of things.
I had a few.
So I said, well, maybe one of you all can summarize that, because I felt like this was very, he was, in this section, he's like, look, with other directedness, he said, you're like an empty shell, and that people are just putting things into you to benefit. He said, you're like a bottomless pit. I mean, oh my goodness. He said, a vacuous personality, an empty shell. He said, a bottomless pit. He said, you are a niggerized version of the original, introjected into this personality by its Eurocentric creators. He's saying you're never satisfied. So you consume everything. You consume things, you consume others, you just consume yourself.
That's right.
This type of personality, this other directedness personality, he said you're vulnerable to addictions to consumption, religion, sex, excitement, the search for ecstasy, painkillers, sedatives, stimulants. He said, and then he goes on to say it chronically, you chronically strive to recover its balance and protect your ego and self-system from further devaluation and disorganizing assaults from others, from aliens, from other alienated Africans alienated from themselves, just as he is alienated from himself. So he's saying, you always on the defense. You're always trying to protect your ego. I mean, goodness, that was deep. I have everything highlighted, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, it's to me, it's just a lot of examples of what the other direct African personality is. He's just further explaining to you that the other directed African personality is basically directed by other people, directed by other influences, directed by things opposite of what it means to be African.
Absolutely.
To sum that up so we can move on. Next is the sociogenetic maladaptiveness. I highlighted just a couple things. This repression out of consciousness of their original identity and consciousness is essentially what is referred to as alienation or self-alienation, which is, they say, let me just read this here. When the repression of African identity and consciousness, the refusal to learn African history and culture are motivated by shame, guilt, anxiety, fear, embarrassment of identifying yourself as African. So he's saying that that's what alienation or self-alienation is, which is also known as, he goes on to say, self-hatred, as we most commonly refer to it, self-hatred, people who hate the fact that they are African and do anything that they can to destroy the fact that they are African.
Absolutely.
Page 126, second paragraph. Assuming a new identity are themselves induced in the self-alienated or self-hating person or group by a powerfully dominating alien group. This powerful or dominant group deliberately induces these attitudes in the subject group by denying it the knowledge and practice of its history and culture, by denigrating and negatively distorting its history and culture, by punishing any attempt on its part to positively identify with its history and culture, as well as by rewarding it for assuming a new and false identity compatible with the interests of the dominant group. Even if the artificial, at the bottom, family, last paragraph, even if the artificial character and disposition of the dominated are seen by many of them as unattractive, deficient, maladaptive, and inferior, the sources of social ridicule and social rejection, especially by their oppressors, whose acceptance they crave beyond all, they will tend to see such a character and disposition as inherently their own, which I thought that was interesting. So it's saying that even though they may be rejected by white supremacy, they still cling on to white supremacy.
Deep. Wow.
Working against your own self-interest. That is the social maladaptiveness. Moving on to social functions of the maladaptive African personality. I had here, all identities require another. Some other in and through a relationship with whom self-identity is actualized. The other by his or her actions may impose on self an unwanted identity. So I thought this was really important here. Baba asked a few questions on page 128. Yes. And he says, who benefits from the typical orientations and behavioral tendencies of the subordinated African personality? How and what ways? Any adequately logical and evidentiary attempt to answer these questions will reveal the following concatenations of facts and outcomes. I'm not going to read it, but Baba is giving us different examples. I'll name one of them. It says in some, I guess I'll read it in some. In some, European Americans benefit from the social problems generated and maintained by their domination of African Americans and are therefore motivated to continue to maintain those social problems. 129. Finally, the alleged differences which characterize African Americans and the social and personal deficiencies these differences generate are used by the dominant European Americans to further justify, rationalize, and sustain their domination and power relations, which makes such domination possible. I thought that this was the most important part of the chapter, the last 6 or 7 pages, because we go on to talk about the reconstruction of the African personality, and Baba shows us how we can go about reconstructing the African personality.
Absolutely.
First paragraph, it says, this means that true empowerment and liberation of African peoples can only be achieved in the process of the African-centered reconstruction of the African personality by means of the re-education of African adults, adolescents, and children in accord with African-centered curriculum regime. He goes on to give us a quote from Kwame Akoto.
Yeah.
Dr. Maat's favorite. She loves Kwame Akoto.
I can't get his book.
Yeah.
His book is out of print. Oh my goodness, she got it.
Come. Ah.
How'd you get that book?
I had to go to, I'm at Morgan, so I went to the School of Engineering. That's why you see it right here.
Oh man, you got to sell that baby.
Look at this. And I haven't given it back. Oh my goodness.
That's a school book. You better give that book back.
I know.
They're gonna send her.
Tell them charge it to the game, Dr. Maat. Tell them charge it to the game.
They're gonna charge it to her credit.
Yes, and so he's gonna go into, and he takes it verbatim from this book on page 129, the African-centered thematic inventory. So Kwame Nkrumah, I've read this book a million times. So, you know, he takes it directly from page, 129 all the way to 144, 145. So I have it right here. So Sister Alina, you know, when Baba Amos Wilson mentioned them, I got all excited, like, oh, Kwame Nkrumah, you know. So yeah, I love that brother. He published this book, and I believe 1992.
It's out of print, and I emailed them, and they're trying to get it back in print.
I hope that they do.
I've contacted them, and the brother contacted me through Facebook and said that they're trying to get it back in print.
Yeah, I want one.
Yeah, this is a must-have. Nation building. It's a must-have, especially in this day and age.
Yeah,
I agree. Well, sis, we got 8 minutes left. So we're not gonna read. I don't think we need to read the African-centered thematic inventory. Mm-hmm. If people have the book, they can read it themselves. Yeah, we don't want just one thing on page 130 under historical and ideological currents. The future of the African world must begin with a confirmed sense of African nationality defined within the universe of African spiritual, moral, and philosophical traditions, and committed to the material and spiritual development and independence of the African world. Only an unambiguously African-centered education can possibly accomplish this goal. African-centered education seeks to restore the traditions of Africa to prominence, to revitalize those traditions and imbue them with liberating and progressive dynamics of nation building. I just wanted to point that out.
I found this book on Amazon, and it cost $2,000.
What? Yep. No freaking way.
Yep, I just found it on Amazon. The price is $1,999.
My first car didn't even cost that much.
Right, because it's out of print.
It's out of print, yep.
Yep, it's out of print. So that is since we're not reading the...
Can we read the summary? Can someone read the summary on 135?
Any other brothers? I'll read it. Nobody else wants to read it.
Go ahead, Queen.
Of the African identity and the construction of an Afrocentric consciousness by African people is crucial to African community. Such a reclamation of identity.
Oh,
You
have to let somebody else read it. Hold on, sis. Sis, hold on, sis. You sound like you got Rice Krispies in your mouth.
Oh,
okay.
Read it real quick.
Okay,
no, I need y'all to get off this 3G service.
The reclamation, I'll start it over.
Yo, I'm breaking up.
Go ahead, brother.
Okay, the reclamation of their African identity and the construction of an Afrocentric consciousness by African people is crucial to the empowerment of the African individual and the Pan-African community. Such a reclamation of identity and transformation of consciousness will permit Africans to shed their other directed personality and behavioral dispositions, to greatly diminish their reactionary orientation to the world, particularly their reactionary relationship to European Americans and their ethnic groups and other ethnic groups. This would greatly reduce the power of these groups to adversely shape the attitudes, interests, motives, and behaviors and consciousness of African peoples, and thereby markedly reduce their ability to exploit, manipulate, and dominate them as well. The African-centered personality is primarily proactive in orientation. It is a self-defined, self-directed personality that is both inner-directed and tradition-directed, as well as responsive to immediate and future reality. It is autonomous construction, not one created and motivated by aliens. Its potentials and resources are developed and utilized primarily for its own perpetuation and enhancement and for the benefit of humankind. Powerful.
Now, that's a summary.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So in order to, golly, it just makes me think, Sister Alima, that every day that we send our babies to a school that isn't, to a non-African centered school, we have to remember that they're constructing our babies' personalities.
That's right.
They're molding and shaping their consciousness, their minds, their taste, their interests.
They do have to go. They have to have alternative learning.
Yeah, exactly. You have to have sort of,
That's right.
absolutely something at home, and we try. I mean, we try our best to instill in him, you know, to show him. I showed you guys all of the books that we buy him and read to him, and again, like, you know, it just makes me understand that, you know, education is deeper than just, you know, sending your child to school to acquire, you know, skills to get a job. Is more than that. Right. And so in order to reconstruct our African selves, our African consciousness, our African, you know, identity and personality, we have to re-educate ourselves, and we have to re-educate our babies. And so we have to give ourselves an African-centered education. Who are we? You know, who are we? Who are we, and what is our purpose? And so I know that we're not read through the inventory, but if you notice, even if you peruse it, it's really a holistic approach to education. You know, you have spirituality involved, you have culture involved. It teaches you about, you know, racism and white supremacy, social, political, and economics. You know, he talks about STEM. I don't know if it's in here. He talks about STEM. He talks about, yep, here it is on page 134. So he said, look, you got to teach the children culture. You have to teach them spirituality. You have to teach them social, political, and economics, technology, and nation building. These are the curricular domains that he is suggesting, you know. And
it's a powerful curriculum too.
This is powerful. This is powerful. So anyway, as Sister Alima said, you guys can read that at your own leisure. But before we go, family, please, well, I want the panel to tell people, you know, what do you do? Where can they find you? What do they need to support?
Well, family, I am Alima Njai, aka Lili La Poete Speaks. I am the author of Perceptions of a Misplaced African, Volume 1. You can go to lililapoetespeaks.com to get your copy, or you can inbox me directly if you want to order it from me. Perceptions of a Misplaced African Volume 2 is actually in the works. It's going to be entitled Reflections of a Misplaced African. This is number 2 in the series. And I think that's all I have. Peace and love, family.
Hey, family. My name is Camille Gaynor-Jones. I'm a drummer, producer, educator, process of writing 2 books. I also have a studio, so anybody need any tracks, you know, for their channel, hit a sister up. I have a CD out entitled "A Girl from Queens," and I'm working on you can be iTunes, you know, Rhapsody, you know, other media. And you can find me on Facebook, Camille Gaynor-Jones, page 3, Twitter at Real Drummette, and Instagram Drummette.
Shout out to
and www.CamilleGaynorJones.com.
All right.
I say.
Brother Travis.
Oh, Brother Travis from Detroit, aka Shimsu Netcher. I'm an IT professional here in Detroit. Like again, I said earlier, I'm a website developer. Also, I do a lot of Facebook marketing, and I love the study and research African history and studies. I do studies of the Medjugorje, comedic writing. I'm part of a lot of study groups that do that here in the Detroit area. Again, and I can be reached at Shimsu Netcher on Facebook.
All right.
Yes.
Brother Do the Knowledge. Brother Do the Knowledge.
No, I'm here. I don't want to get in trouble. All right, you know what I'm saying? I got in trouble enough tonight. I'm definitely honored to be a part of this long-standing commitment to African excellence via the Resurgence of the African Mind book club. You understand? Y'all can catch me 7 days a week. on Do Knowledge Radio. Again, www.blogtalkradio.com/Do Knowledge Radio. That's DOTHAKNOWLEDGERADIO. We got magnificent series, African Centered curriculum, all day, every day, 7 days a week. You know what I mean? We ain't Sunday Africans on Do Knowledge Radio. Okay, we ain't Sunday Africans.
All right.
All right.
So
I have to ask you guys a question before we get off, and I'm gonna say my little spill. Well, first of all, Do the Knowledge Radio, I wanted to tell Brother Knowledge Born, we really appreciate you being here today because you had a full day. I mean, you were on the air this afternoon from about what, 3 to 6 or 3 to 7?
something like that. I want to thank you just for the same reason. I heard Dr. Africa is in town. You could have been over there with Dr. Africa, getting busy. You understand?
Yes,
the African excellence and that commitment, you know, providing this platform for us to keep on trucking. So salute to you as well. So whatever praises you trying to send this way, I'm sending them back.
You know, I had to shout you out because you had a day and a half today, and then you turned around and you came on here with us for about 2.5 hours. So that was just a lot. That was just a lot. So I wanted to definitely acknowledge that. And also, how do you guys feel about the book by Walter Rodney, How Europe Underdeveloped Africa?
Got that. Awesome. Awesome. He was killed, you know. They assassinated him.
I heard. They said he
blew up the car. Blew up the car.
They said he was bombed. They said he was bombed.
That's right. They set off a they had a kill switch on his car, and the car blew up because, you know, he was pushing socialism. I forgot the WPA. I think that was the name of that organization he was part of, and he was a threat to capitalism. So they killed him. Yes, indeed. He got Guyana. He was from Guyana.
Yeah, they killed him in what, the 1980s, right?
That's right. That's right. Studied here in the U.S. and also in London. He used to live in Atlanta for a while, I believe. I think he was a college professor at Atlanta, one of the black colleges. I think it might have been Atlanta. Atlanta University? One of the colleges down there for a while. He was lecturer. Oh
wow! Did they ever catch the perpetrators or?
No, because the government was corrupt, and they was part of in alignment with the CIA. That was part of the to destroy socialism in South America. So they were all in cahoots about destroying the power of socialism. So the government was not going to look for the person who killed him. Of course not.
Gotcha. As usual.
Right.
Yeah, as usual. As usual. Okay. All right, well, let me share my screen. I'll make it fast. Please support Meltrek. And not only okay, so you can go to edanimeproductions.com to buy your Meltrek products. We have films and books available for your children. We have Meltrek episode 1, exploring ancient Africa. And the objective of this film is to teach children that the history of people of African descent does not begin with slavery, but that it begins with humanity and civilization. So we take them back in time to explore pre-diaspora Africa, and they learn about the contributions and achievements that African people made to the world. They learn the names of different kings and queens. We talk to them about a little bit about mathematics and science and religion, and we let them know that, you know, these are the things that African people gave to the world, and that Africa is a continent not of dark history, but of bright history, light history, and that this continent is full of natural resources. So we take them back in time and we teach them about pre-diaspora Africa in Meltrek episode 1. In Meltrek episode 2, the objective of this film is to one, teach children about the Aboriginal cultures of the Americas, and 2, to teach that there was an African presence in the America prior to Christopher Columbus. Whenever I speak about Meltrek episode 2, I always provide people with this caveat that we are not making a claim that we were the Mayans, Olmecs, Aztecs, or the Incas. Not at all. We're just simply saying that there was an African presence in the Americas before Christopher Columbus. So we teach the children about Abu Bakr, or some people refer to him as Abu Bakari, who was a king in Mali around the early 1300s. And we teach him, and a lot of Malian scholars believe that he made it to Brazil which is located in South America. So we teach the children about him. We teach the children about Alonso de Ilicus, who was among 16 shipwrecked Africans who established a province in Ecuador. They also learned that there was shipbuilding in Africa, so that Africans definitely had the capacity to make it over here to the Americas before Columbus. We exposed the children to the papyrus ship located in the pyramid of Khufu. And we talk about that, and we talk about the Dafuna canoe. So they learn about the shipbuilding nuances in West Africa and also in East Africa, alongside of learning about the Aboriginal cultures of the Americas. So please support the Meltrek Project. Not only do we have films available, but for people who are homeschooling, or even people who want to supplement the education that their children are receiving, we have unit plans available for Meltrek. We have unit plans, and with each unit plan, you get a 10 days worth of lessons. You also get a Meltrek learning packet and also an assessment. And currently, we have about 3 unit plans completed, and we should have another set of unit plans completed by the end of this month. So if you want to support the Meltrek Project, which I highly recommend all parents do, please visit edanimeproductions.com, or you also can visit, Sister Alima, what is your website? It's La Poetic.
LiliLaPoeteSpeaks.com.
Yes, you can also
LiliLaPoeteSpeaks.com.
Matter of fact, let me go to it so they can see that. Lili.
Okay.
La Poetics. Because I looked at it on my phone.
It's Poete. Poete.
Got it. Do I have it now?
Speaks.
Got you.
There you go.
Yes. Her website is beautiful. Oh, I love this. Beautifully laid out, brothers and sisters. I looked at it from my cell phone, but I haven't looked at it on my laptop. This is beautiful. She has a marketplace right here on the website. Click on the marketplace. You can purchase Perceptions of a Misplaced African. You can purchase some Meltrek stuff. You can also purchase, and I love this right here, Aaron Learns About Africa. I actually have the book right here. Aaron Knows About Africa. So I have the book right in front of me. So you can visit her website to check out her marketplace. Also, the Ram Book Club is right here. Click on this link, go to the Ram Book Club. We have our mission, our end game, and she also has a blog. So, during the week, if you're reading your book and you want to post a message, about the book or any of your ideas, you could come here and register and start blogging about things. This is beautiful, Sister Alima, by the way.
Yeah.
This is really beautiful. I love it. Beautifully laid out. All right. Yes. So let me stop.
Awesome.
And I never recommend books that I never say get the book and I don't have it. So here's Aaron Knows About Africa, a beautiful book laid out by Sister Naomi H. Bradley and Brother Benjamin Njai, Brother Black Panther. Beautiful book that teaches children about the different countries in Africa. You have Senegal. Look at this. Senegal, Kenya, South Africa, Ghana, look, Nigeria, Ethiopia, Egypt. So beautiful book. My son has read it several times. I also have Perception of a Misplaced African right here beside me. So I never recommend items that I don't have or items that I haven't read myself. So please support. Go to lalapoetespeaks.com or edanimeproductions.com to purchase your Meltrek products. So sis, next week, what is the name of the chapter? We're in chapter 7. What's the name of the chapter?
Somebody tell me the name because my book is upstairs.
Okay.
Class, Race, and Power in America.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
What is it called?
Class, Race, and Power in America.
Oh, that's going to be deep.
That's going to be good.
Yeah, that's going to be good. How many pages is it, sis?
About 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's 11 pages.
Oh, man. So
Do 7 and 8.
Should we combine it?
How long is chapter 8? Because y'all, we can go in for about 2, 3.
I know. That's why I was trying to wrap it up because I knew we wasn't even gonna get to chapter 6.
That ain't about 7 pages too.
Okay, so how about chapter 9? Woo. No, we just gonna do 2. We just gonna do 2. We just gonna do 2 because we talk too much to do 3 chapters.
I just keep myself on mute next week. You know what I'm saying?
We can
get through 3 chapters. We can get through 3 chapters if I'm on mute.
Brother got good insight.
No, don't do that, brother. I
just try to keep the flow with the group because I know if we talk a lot, we won't get nothing done.
No, we'll get sidetracked and start building or something.
I want to just do 7 and 8.
Okay, so what is 8 about? I'm with it. 7 and 8. What is 8 about?
8 is, let me find it.
The power and process of the ruling class.
The power and process of the ruling class. Oh, those are going to be really good. Yeah, we should read those together.
Okay, so, all right, cool. So next week, chapter 7 and 8. All right, I'm with it, y'all. I'm definitely with it. All right, so I guess peace and power to the listeners and the people that are viewing it. We'll see you next week.
See you next week, family. Peace.
Peace and Black Power, family. Ashe.
Black Power forever.
That's right.
Oh, now where did you go, Brother Andre? You gonna come on the last 2 minutes?
You come out of nowhere.
I know we're talking about Black Power forever.
Hey, wait a minute. Let me tell y'all what happened real quick. I'm sitting here and my phone starts to die. It was like heating up from my cord. I'm like, what the heck, man? And we was right in the thick of things. I was so disappointed. I couldn't do anything. So please forgive me. You know I love y'all, and I'm with y'all.
We love you too.
Love you too, bro.
Okay. All right.
All right. Peace and power.